And we are live. I'm doing a quick sound check here. A quick sound check here on the stream. And I hear that the sound is fine. Ladies and gentlemen, let's allow our fellow contemporaries and colleagues and so on and so forth to join us. So give us a second here. We'll play a little bit of a musical interlude, and then we're going to get right into talking strategy, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
war. The legions in our hearts, shed what us in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze. With gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight. Impervious to light, this vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to be back. What do I mean by that? Well, I made it safe back to California, back to the United States, back to the Bay Area, and the trip was a success. And as promised, I will be releasing a video within the next week. I will try to get it out within the next week. A video that documents my trip. We'll compare and contrast airports, airlines, and so on and so forth. Talk about certain things that I did over there. Share footage, share thoughts and ideas. Going to go back and edit it and put it out there. Maybe I'll premiere it, or maybe we'll do it live. Maybe we will do it live, ladies and gentlemen. But salute to you guys. It's always a pleasure and an honor. Shout out to Melody in the chat. Shout out to the Goldie Jones channel in the chat. And to one and all. Today, we're going to be talking about business strategy. We're going to be talking about strategy from a business perspective. Now, strategy is very important because moving up in any particular endeavor or in any particular realm or in any particular domain, going from being a child to adulthood, going from being a grunt soldier to being a commander to a general, going from being a salesman to a sales manager, going from being an entrepreneur to a CEO, any kind of upward movement, any kind of growth implies a movement from a more tactical standpoint to a more strategic standpoint, because moving to a strategic standpoint is about taking a bigger view, seeing more steps ahead. In the case of going from a child to an adult, for example, it's about understanding delayed gratification, looking at the long play, thinking about more moves ahead rather than just doing things in a more, shall we say, unthinking, unhinged, instinctive way that only is about what you see right in front of you and satisfying certain desires. Certain also the same thing with any particular role that you're playing, going from being the teacher to the principal, if you will. Any particular aspect of your life, development and growth implies being more strategic. Hence, the importance of strategy. Shout out to Checking for You. Greetings, greetings to one and all as you come in. And so I'm reviewing this book called Your Next Five Moves. And it's about, or should I say it's by, let me talk about who it's by first. The writer is called Patrick David. He has a YouTube channel, actually. It's called Valuetainment. His YouTube channel is called Valuetainment. It's a fairly big YouTube channel. Um, I think he's got to have at least 1 million subscribers. Okay, and he is a CEO of a company. I believe it's insurance. Okay, selling of life insurance, and he's one of those entrepreneurs out there in the space of social media. So Patrick Bet David, the Valuetainment channel, he is a CEO of his own insurance sales company. And he wrote this book called Your Next Five Moves. And I got the book. Why did I get the book? Okay, why did I go about getting this book in the first place? One thing is because strategy is not my strong suit. Strategy is not my thing whatsoever. I'm a creative, intuitive type. I'm about taking action. Shoot first, ask questions later. Using my intuitive nose, having a vision out there, albeit a vague vision. Okay, I'm more of a visionary kind. I have an idea of whom I want to be. I'm all about mastery of subjective consciousness, as you guys know. So I'm all about knowing myself and having a very clear intuition about who I am and what I want to do, and then using certain basic virtues, such as sticking to the task and hard work, perseverance and hard work, I would say. Through perseverance, hard work, and strong intuition, I kind of move through life. And this has gotten me as far as I have come. However, it is important to know where your weaknesses are. It is important to know where your weaknesses are. Hence, I started looking into how to be more and more strategic. Not because I'm going to go ahead and do all the strategizing myself, or especially the executing of the strategies. No, 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 no. But it's important to understand the borders of your ignorance. It is important to understand the borders of your ignorance so that you can understand the people that you're going to bring in to help you. Strategy is not my strong suit. Planning and spreadsheeting and bean counting is not my thing. I just want to visualize, think, act, 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 act. Shoot first, ask questions later, come back and clean up the mess later, and then keep going. That's my thing. I'm an intuitive, creative type. Okay? So, in order to kind of have some idea, some vague, perhaps low resolution idea of the landscape within which I'm not strong, I decided to start looking into being more and more strategic, being more of a planner, because I know that what has gotten me this far is not going to take me ahead from here. Okay? So, we have said that it is very important to think strategically or to understand strategy because strategy is implied in any kind of growth. Moving from childhood to adulthood, moving from a sales person to a sales manager, moving from an entrepreneur to whatever it is, whatever the totem pole is, you're moving up that totem pole. By definition, you're moving to a position that requires more strategy, a position that requires more of a broader view, a position that requires you understanding a few steps ahead rather than just one step ahead and what's in front of your nose. Hence, the name of the book. The name of the book is Your Next Five Moves. And this was particularly attractive to me when I saw this because I barely know what my next two moves are. Okay. And when I say I don't know, I'm not being completely honest there. I do know, but I don't think about it in a very clear way. I don't write it down and then put a measurable, make it time bound, and so on and so forth. I'm usually always looking backwards after achieving a goal. I'm like, oh, so that happened. And then I just keep on my nose to the grindstone, good intuition, good work ethic, and I just keep on going. Never really sat down to think strategically, what are my next five moves? And I was like, this is a good book for me to at least continue to understand and expand upon the parts of the business realm in which I'm completely deficient. Again, not because I'm going to go and handle this myself, because that would be foolish, because that's not my strong suit. You don't want to do things you're not good at. I'm the visionary, intuitive type. That's what I'm good at. But it is good for me to understand the realm of my ignorance so that I can at least be able to evaluate the people that I'm going to bring in or the people that I have brought in to help me out with the strategy piece. So this book is divided into five parts. Broadly speaking, the book is divided into five parts. The very first three parts are preparatory, okay? And they all start with mastering. Okay, the very first three parts are preparatory to prepare you for the overall more strategic parts. Okay. Shout out to Taylor in the house. Shout out to Taylor in the house. Shout out to everybody joining in. It is an honor and a pleasure, as always, ladies and gentlemen. As always, there are five parts to the book. And the five parts, as I mentioned, the first three parts are really about preparatory aspects of the strategic landscape. So, thinking strategically about yourself, master yourself. Number two, master the ability to reason. Number three, master the team. Number four, master strategy to scale. And so far, all these are self explanatory. Okay. This channel mainly is about the first two aspects of things. These first two, that's my strong suit. I live there all day long. I'm all about master yourself in whatever dimension it may be, whether it be physical, mental, and also what you may term spiritual. In other words, master your subjective consciousness, meditation, knowing yourself in and out. Who are you? What are you good at? What motivates you? Being completely honest with yourself. That part is my strong suit. Master the ability to reason. I can't help but reason in a certain way. I'm an engineer. I'm that, that's what I do. That's what we do. Okay. So those parts, not only are they self-explanatory, but also these are my strong suits. Okay. And then the team part is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. From my perspective, interesting because it is not my strong suit, interesting because it is novel to me, and I had a lot to learn in that particular area. I do have a lot to learn. And I have done a lot of the things that are in this book without necessarily having read many books on strategy. But I have read other books on startup. Peter Thiel wrote a book called Zero to One, and I will be reviewing that book as well in a future broadcast. And that one really helped me a lot. And also my association with other people whom are, let's say, the CEO types, or not the CEO types, but actual CEOs. I'm more of an entrepreneur at this point, right? Not a CEO. And there's a difference, okay? And the main difference really has to do with the strategy thing. An entrepreneur is just somebody that's out there doing stuff, okay? They're creative, visionary, intuitive. They shoot first, ask questions later, just doing stuff, okay? A CEO is more of a strategic manager type, okay? So I have had the privilege, honor of being acquainted with CEO types, and I've been able to learn, glean from them some of the strategic aspects of business, and I've tried to implement that as I go along. But I haven't really studied formally up until started reading these books by, let's say, Peter Thiel, which is about startups, called Zero to One, and then this book, Your Next Five Moves. Okay, The first three steps, as I mentioned before, the first three aspects of the book, just breaking down the book now, because this is about the book review while we talk about the ideas in the book. It is not necessarily supposed to be an expose on the ideas in the book. It's an encouragement for you to go read the book, right? Or get it as an audio book and listen to the book. So it's more of an overview of the book, and then we go in a little bit, talk about what I found interesting, and as I mentioned, why I found it interesting, which is strategy is not my strong suit. Is the first thing that led me to move in this particular direction. So the first three parts, mastering yourself, mastering your ability to reason, and mastering the team, those are preparatory. Thinking strategically within these three realms is preparatory for you, and then mastering strategy to scale and also mastering power plays is where you implement the actions that you've been preparing for from the first three steps. Mastering power plays has to do with defeating the Goliath in your particular space, making power moves. Okay. After you've scaled, how do you make power moves within your space? The last two parts, actually, the last three for me, were the most interesting, were the most novel, because those are not my strong suits. Okay. So we're going to go into these particulars, okay, the particular aspects of this. Yes, 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 yes. Checking for you says, my title reads, Your Next Five Noves. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you very much, checking for you. I will go ahead and I will revise that. However, I can't revise it in all of the slides at the same time. It's a PDF. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll have this interesting exercise every time I move to the next slide. I will go ahead and change this to that. Or here's what I'll do. I'll just do this and I'll copy it. And then as we move along, we will do this particular exercise. Thank you very much, Taylor. I have horrible eyesight, and when there's no spell check, you know, doesn't really matter. So, first thing, mastering yourself. As I mentioned already, this is what I'm all about. If you're familiar with what I do in this channel, which is about being better and doing better with a strong emphasis on doing, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm about doing. I'm intuitive. I'm creative. I'm not a planner. Okay. So I do. Being better and doing better with an emphasis on doing. And over here, we talk about mastery of subjective consciousness. We talk about time management, energy management, business in terms of execution, not so much in terms of strategy, right? In other words, the virtues that are required in order for you to persevere and do the hard work and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the discipline. Okay, so knowing yourself, this particular aspect, thinking strategically within this realm, is something that we do over here. And I found it interesting to see from a strategic perspective what someone had to say about this, right? So asking yourself, okay, ask and answer. So here's another typo, okay? And I would just have to say, forgive me for the typos, okay? Forgive me for the typos as we go along. I will I will try in to change them as we go along. So ask and answer certain basic questions. Now, when people reach out to me for mentorship, okay? When people say, "Hey, I would like to be a mentee of yours," I ask them, I say, "Okay, well, we'll talk about it. But first and foremost, prior to our first meeting, I want you to go and answer these questions. What do you want? What are you going to do with it when you get it?" Okay. So there's what do you want and why do you want it? And in that why has an aspect of what are you going to do when you get this? Usually it's resources, resources, money, time, that kind of a thing. What do you want exactly? Okay, resources, money, time. What are you going to do with it when you get it? Why do you want it? And then how can I help you? Right? That tends to be, and for me, this is something that I did not really quite realize was a strategic thing, but for me, it just kind of came intuitively that you should know these things. And you'd be surprised how many people haven't really thought that through. Well, like they just kind of have an idea of, okay, well, I want a certain lifestyle. They haven't really thought it through and says, well, what exactly do I want? What am I going to do with this lifestyle, this money, this power, this time when I get it? Why exactly do I want it? Okay. And this has to do with the mastery of self there. And again, if you watch one of my videos, for example, I have created a playlist that's called Time, Energy, and Money. Okay, time, energy, money. That's why I have videos such as Shut Up and Show Your Work or my pyramid method of energy management and so on and so forth. Okay, and also I have another stream on another playlist on meditation. These two combined, okay, really encapsulate the idea of really knowing yourself. Okay. And I would have to mention here, and let me get a one in the chat if you understand what I'm about to say. This is not something you create, this is something that you excavate. This is more of an archaeological dig. Who you are, what you want to be, right? When I say, what do you want to be? This is not something you sit and think about. What do I want to be? And then you create it. No. Let me get a one in the chat if you understand what I mean, that this is more of an archaeological dig. You have to take your chisels and your bulldozers and your brushes, and you have to go out there and excavate into the earth, excavate into your subjective consciousness, excavate into your mind, and find out who you want to be slash who you are, right? So it is not something that you sit down and just write on paper. I want to, it's like, no, no, no. It is a journey within, not a journey without. Okay. So answering those basic questions is very, very key. And I see ones in the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much. Rorona says, shout out to Rorona, shout out to K Coaching. Okay, shout out to Taylor again. Listening in the background while you learn some Python 3. That's good. That's good. That is very, very, very good. That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear around here. So do some excavating to find out some basic questions. Okay. You're out there and you want to, you have some kind of a vague feeling, okay, that you want to be successful. You need to ask yourself what exactly that means to you. Why exactly you want it. It's going to be different for different people. And a lot of times people feel dissatisfied because they're trying to live someone else's dream. And this can happen obviously in two ways. Some people are dissatisfied because they feel like they're not as successful as they perhaps think they should be. But when you really look and dig into yourself and you find what really makes you tick, you may find that, hey, you know what? I just want to make about 160 grand a year, have my nice family, and be satisfied. Okay? And I should stop looking at, the top salesman making, 800 grand or the manager of the car lot. Okay? The manager of the dealership with his 850 grand and or this entrepreneur over here who just broke 1.5 million and all that kind of stuff and feeling dissatisfied. Okay? Maybe that's not you. To some people it's very clear who they are, but to a lot of people they really need to sit down. And a lot of people have already gone very far in their career or go very far pursuing certain things without necessarily asking, what exactly do you see yourself? Where are you satisfied at? Okay. And then why do you want that kind of a thing? Okay. What is your motivation exactly? What motivates you? Okay. Are you a crazy type of person or do you want legacy? And by crazy, I mean some people want big and then bigger and bigger and bigger and it never stops. Okay. Some people want a legacy. Some people have a purpose. Okay. I would like to cure cancer, or I would like to do this for that person. I would like to build a house for my parents. Something like that. Okay. What motivates you? What is your particular story? So I'm talking about the two ways in which you could be dissatisfied vis-a-vis what you want. We talk about this side where you're living someone else's dream and you think you want to be the $1.2 million guy, but really you'll be happy at about 150, 160 grand. So don't kill yourself. Okay. And then there's the other end of things where people listen to other people that tell them, why aren't you satisfied? Why don't you just be okay with the 160? Some of us will never be satisfied. It is good to know the kind of person that you are and understand that we're just people, regardless of the type, okay? And that we cannot help the type that we are. I'm motivated, I'm more of the crazy madman type where there is no end to my ambition. So there is no goal. So it doesn't matter where I'm at right now. I don't have a target. In a way, it's very freeing because I don't really have to be anywhere, right? I will never be satisfied. And that's the flip side, flip way of saying I am never dissatisfied either because I don't have a goal. I just know that there's something within me that is always trying to expand and is always trying to do more and more and more and more. That's why I'm not just going to do engineering. I'm also going to do music and I'm also going to do this and that and the other. I'm not just going to study physics. I'm also going to study philosophy and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to want to stop at whatever cap monetary wise you try to put. No. Why should I? This is me talking now. And for me, that's natural. It's intuitive. I just know. I just know that that's just me, right? My dissatisfaction perhaps has come from in the past and perhaps could come from when I listen to external voices that tend to suggest that perhaps I should be satisfied with something, right? And you should know who you are, know what motivates you. Use pain as a fuel was one thing that was mentioned here. And it's very important. Okay, we all know, like, let's say Michael Jordan, for example, he has a chip on his. He's one of those characters. Okay, he's an extreme category. Okay, of never satisfied and hyper competitive, and he has a huge chip on his shoulder all the time, and that's why he's so good. For some people, this is unhealthy. In other words, if you're not Michael Jordan or are not amongst the ranks of a Michael Jordan type, this is going to be unhealthy for you. Again, this is step one, or this is part one of the book. Shout out to Jessica X in the house. How you doing, Jessica? This is part one of the book that talks about you mastering yourself. This is our wheelhouse in this channel, okay? This is our wheelhouse in this channel. But I just picked out a few things that I found interesting in this particular book, which is your next five moves, talking about how you should think about understanding yourself vis-a-vis where you're trying to go from a business endeavor point of view. Whom are you? What motivates you, so on and so forth. If you're not a Michael Jordan type, okay, dwelling on what who told you something in junior high, and while you're gonna show them, I'm gonna prove them wrong, that could be unhealthy. But for some people, that is perfectly healthy. Some of us find the fuel, and it may not even be conscious. It's just something that motivates us. And there we have a chip on our shoulder. And when I look introspectively, I have to say that I'm one of those people. And I have no qualms admitting it. Okay? I just have these imaginary people in my head that I need to prove wrong. They're not really real people. it's almost it's almost a battle with myself. I will be completely dissatisfied with myself if I do not at least put leave it all out on the field vis-a-vis reaching my potential. I made a video talking about happiness is about talent cultivation. It's in the playlist all called, energy and so on and so forth. Energy, time, and money. Basically, the message in that video is this: if you have 100 acres of talent and everybody else has one, even if you cultivate 50 and everyone is looking at you like, wow, he has 50 acres. Look at Ike, man. He's got 50 acres cultivated. You've seen Ike's land, it's so big. But Ike knows that he has 100 acres. Therefore, he has an extra 50, which is laying fallow, an extra 50, which is full of weeds. And Ike is going to start channeling that extra energy because the flip side of that talent is an obsessive energy. You have this obsession. It's one and the same thing with talent, if you think about it. How the hell did you become so good at the guitar? How the hell did you become so good at golf, Tiger Woods? Yes, he had the talent. The flip side of the talent was that practice, 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 obsession, obsession, obsession. If you do not pursue that obsession all the way, that energy has to go somewhere. And you're going to find out, guess what? Now you're chasing women, now you're doing drugs, now you're gambling, so on and so forth. So only you know how many acres of land you have to cultivate. So for me, I know that I just got to keep on going. I got to keep on going and I got to keep on going and I got to keep on going because I will never be satisfied until I know that I've left it all out in the field, cultivating my talents. And I will not listen to anybody coming in and telling me, oh, you got 50 acres. Everyone else has got one. I know I got 100. And someone out there is hearing me right now. Okay. And Marona says, I got grand ambitions. Yes. Never let anyone come with the BS to you. At this point in my life, it's very annoying. It's very annoying when people come at you with some weird stuff, like you're not a human being. And they think so low of human beings that they think that human beings only existed in history books and only existed in folklore and in the Bible. Like, no, we are human beings today. You know what I mean? So, ladies and gentlemen, know thyself. That's the first part of the book there. Use pain as fuel, okay? Your best role that fits your talents is something that you should know. We've talked about that, and we will continue to talk about that as we go along here when we talk especially about the part of the book that talks about mastering the team, okay? What would X do? And this has to do with placing yourself in the pantheon of the greats. Because a lot of people, and I'm talking about people outside yourself now, and perhaps you yourself tend to think that human beings, again, only exist in history books. Or let me put it in the flip side, like Alexander the Great was not a human being. Or, Moses was not a human being. No, you need to put yourself amongst the ranks of those people and ask, what would they do? We have the what would Jesus do thing. You need to start putting yourself mentally in that space. And this is all about thinking strategically vis-a-vis understanding yourself which is the first preparatory step towards the more of the scaling and the building of the team and making power plays, which we'll get to in parts 4 and 5 of the book. But this is about really understanding yourself, okay? Really understand where you want to be, who you are. Put yourself amongst the greats because the greats, flesh and blood, just like yourself. And people who, anyone who even begins to breathe anything that suggests that they think you're too grandiose, kick them out of your life. Cut. I'm not saying, oh yeah, completely kick them out of your life. Yes, yes, yes. I'm being a little bit extreme. But you need to stop listening to that crap. You need to stop listening to that crap. That is very insulting, very belittling to the whole human race. It's not just about you. They think so little of human beings that they think that real human beings cannot exist today and that you're not one of them. How could you be saying these things, Jessica X? Who are you, Verona? I mean, how could you have these things? Who do you think you are? Sole provider speaks. How dare you have these ideas about yourself? Uh, you know. And sole provider says, "How was my trip? My trip was excellent. My trip was quite excellent. I am back, as you can see, and I will be putting that video out within the next week. By that video, I mean the video that documents my trip, and I may have it in 2 parts, but I'm doing the editing right now. I'm going to expose the whole thing. I'm going to talk about um, if if you're going to take long trips, and if you're over 6 feet, I'm about 6'4", fly business class, fly business or first class, okay? Because it's not worth. So, slight digression here, okay? I once flew because okay, when traveling, locally here, traveling to Portland and Seattle and do my regular business trips up and down the West Coast, doesn't matter. I hop into Southwest. I have my particular seat that I always sit on, back, you know. I always sit in a particular place. Okay. And watch a video that talks about exciting lives require boring routines if you want to know why I do that. I have very, very boring routines for many, many, many things that I do because I hold on a second. Yes, it's working. I have I know when I wake up, I know what I eat, I know the restaurants I go to in I know I don't want to think about those things because those things do not deserve the attention of my conscious mind. My conscious mind is into expansion, creation, okay? I don't want to sit around thinking, where am I going to sit? What flight am I going to take? What hotel am I going to stay at? What am I going to? It's like, no, those things are automated. Those things are boring routines. But, anyways, when I first started flying internationally, my first international trip, I did fly in the back with the cattle. Okay? Because when flying locally here, it doesn't matter. You know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, doesn't really matter. You know, the seats are comfortable enough. The flight is not that long. I have a particular seat that I sit in. I have a system. I always fly Southwest and I have a system. It works. But I did do coach or cattle class in my first international trip a while ago. And I never did it again. Okay, because it took me weeks to recover from the back pain situation and certain other things which are just not worth it. Okay, so if I'm gonna, I'm adding the caveat that if you are over 6 foot tall, okay, but I would think even if you're not 6 foot tall, if you need to push yourself a little bit, work a little harder, get that little bit of money. Don't be so cheap, and get in business class, get first class, enjoy yourself. Okay, it's worth it. Exactly. Checking for you says tall people problems. Yes, because people think being tall is all good. Hey, sister, Ogogo and Mokaro in the house says hi, brother. Hey, sister. So yes, go business class, go first class, get your money right. It'll push you to get the money right. Don't be so cheap. Back to the program, ladies and gentlemen, back to the program. Now, there's certain things that motivate you, and then we'll wrap up this first part. Again, this is a book called Your Next Five Moves. Pardon the misspelling over here that says Your Next Five Moves, whatever that is. That should be an M. Okay? This is a book on business strategy broken down into five parts. The first three parts are more preparatory, having to do with mastering yourself, know thyself, and then mastering reason, and then mastering the team. And the last two parts have to do with scaling the business and making power moves. Mastery of self, my strong suit, the strong suit of what we do in this channel. Okay. But I'm just highlighting a few points here that I found interesting about what the author had to say. The author is Patrick Bet David that wrote this book. He is a YouTuber. His channel is called Valuetainment and also a CEO of an insurance company. So check him out. What motivates you? Okay. I said that I'm more of a advancement and I'm more of a, I would say overall, because with everything in life, there's always a spectrum, okay? But it's a question of what dominates. For me, it's the madness. I'm more of a madman, okay? You need to know. Advancement is okay, you like to advance in your career, you want to take the next step, and so on and so forth. It's not really my thing. I want to be promoted to the next. No, I don't. I'm not so much of a structured person in that regard. And again, no smoke for if you are. I just described it as not being a structured person. That's why I'm not that way. It's not big, you know, obviously structure is good, but I'm not a structured person. I'm an intuitive, creative type. So advancement in a linear pattern, not really my thing. Madness is my thing. Okay. I want to push in every different frontier because, as I mentioned, only I knows the acreage that I have in these different frontiers. No one can come and tell me, "Oh, you should be satisfied with." No, no. You don't know the land I have to cultivate. They don't know the land that you have to cultivate. Don't listen to them. Okay. So understand if is it advancement? Is it individuality? In other words, do you want to carve out a particular niche for yourself? Is that really what motivates you? Is it a question of purpose? As a particular purpose, I would like to cure cancer. I would like to do this for my family. I would like to make generational wealth, that kind of a thing. For me, not so much. Again, I'm not a very strategic or systematic or purpose driven kind of person. For me, it's the madness. That's the one that really gets me going. I just want to blow it all out the frame, okay, in whichever direction, because I see the different vistas in these different directions whereby I do have something to offer, something to pursue, envelopes to push out, and so on and so forth. So I'm more of a madman. You should know where you are. Are you motivated by advancement, madness, individuality, or purpose, and so on and so forth? Okay. What motivates you? Okay. And you should understand that as you progress in life, as you different go through different stages, your motivations are going to change, and that's perfectly fine, right? In the beginning, for example, we're all motivated by advancement, right? You need to learn how to wipe your butt and then learn how to do this and do that and go from this to that and the other. Advancement tends to be at some point in our life more important than others. And then at some other point, maybe now it's purpose, okay? Maybe it's now leaving a legacy. Maybe now you're in your 60s and that's more of your thing, legacy for children and so on and so forth. So understanding that your motivations will also change as time goes along is also super important as well. Now let's move to the next part. And the next part, I'm only just going to say a sentence about it. Master the ability to reason is self-explanatory. Okay. And for me, it's second nature. I could not help but be hyper rational, hyper reasonable, hyper transparent with myself and just thinking in that way. There's a reason I studied engineering. There's a reason I like to study philosophy and study. There's a reason why I like to consume data and statistics in a very sophisticated way. For me, it's just kind of a normal thing. I like to do that kind of stuff. There's a reason I started that Prometheus engineering channel talking about describing engineering concepts from an intuitive way, starting from intuition to visualizations to analytical representations and then to equations. Okay. Some people like to just start from equations, but what's the point? I like to go down to the intuition and then build up the rationality from there. Intuition, visualization, analytical representations, and then equations. So now you have a full grasp of the concepts rather than just somebody coming in trying to blow your mind. And that's my beef with certain people who like to blow people's minds by going to the extreme end. They just go to equations or they go and say some silly things rather than try to bring you along from the intuitive end all the way through to the mathematical equation. So mastering reasoning is something that obviously you got to do. These first three steps, as we mentioned, are about, or the first three aspects of the book are about preparation. Okay. So thinking strategically, thinking reasonably, being rational. Okay. Analyzing data, being analytical, so on and so forth. That's what is shared in this part of the book. I'm not going to go into that. We're just simply going to skip over that part and go to the next part, which has to do with the mastery of the team. Okay? The mastery of the team, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you got to understand the importance of a team. I believe there's a statement that says no matter how good you are, if you're playing a solo game, you will always be defeated by a team. That just goes without saying that we can understand. Eventually, you will lose to a team. Eventually, you will lose to a team. And the point of that statement is to show that if you're going to be moving forward with things, one of the things that you need to do as a preparatory step number three, is to really understand the team. Okay. And how do you go about building a team? Okay. The first thing that you need to understand vis-a-vis the team is that you want to constantly work to replace yourself. And let me see here. Constantly work to replace yourself. And I had mentioned before that, in my particular endeavors and so on and so forth, I am kind of, I do know some CEO types specifically, meaning that they're more strategic. Okay. And this particular character got a company from his dad, an engineering company from his dad. Um, Company was floundering, and he was able to revamp it, and he's now expanded and so on and so forth. So in his role as a CEO, he is very strategic, or he has to be. That's his in his wheelhouse. So I've been able to learn a lot in that regard from my particular perspective as a entrepreneur type, creative type, right? And one of the things that he told me a long time ago, and then when I started reviewing this book, I remember, oh, I wrote this down over here, which is basically, how do you start creating a team? Okay, you have a business, K Coaching, okay, Jessica X, or Sole Provider Speaks. You guys have some kind of a business. You start something, okay? How do you build a team? It's very simple, okay? You just got to create a list of tasks, okay? And this is intuitive. You guys probably already know what I'm going to say here, okay? You create a list of tasks. And what I did here is I created a list of tasks for my engineering business, okay? When the job comes in, what are the first things that need to happen, okay? Every single step, okay? First, you have to create a folder. You have to then ask for pertinent documents. Okay, I need plans and specifications for the job sites, pictures, descriptions, so on and so forth. I need to get a purchase order, a PO from the client, and then I need to create an invoice. Okay. Prior to doing that, after I create a folder, I need to send a quote out to the client. Okay. I send a quote out to the client, it's a back and forth. I get a purchase order from them. I then, create the invoice as well in anticipation of sending it out. I put the relevant information into a particular set of files and so on and so forth. And then I start doing designs. Now, I just put all the list of all the things, and then I started highlighting in yellow, red, and pink, discriminating these things into different roles. The roles that I created for the engineering team are in yellow, and then there are some accounting and then clerical. Clerical is red, accounting is pink. Okay. And I created these roles. Okay. The project engineer, the principal engineer, okay, which would be myself, the lead engineer, the project coordinator, it's more of a clerical administrative assistant type, and then the project manager, and also the accounting department, and then the detailer, which has to do with drafting. Okay, so I did this years ago, and then when I was doing this, I realized, oh yeah, this is a be when I was that's when I was reading the book, I then saw this. This was something that I got from my, this particular tactic here was something that a CEO pal of mine told me, right? Years ago. And I did this years ago, which is just whatever it is your business is. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're doing all this stuff, right? So you just sit down and you write every step from the beginning of a typical job to the end of the typical job. What is everything I do? And then break down these tasks into different roles. And you want to constantly back yourself out of it to the point whereby there's only one thing I want to do. I want to come up with the designs, if you will, and especially if they're hard designs, or come up with templates for the designs. Talking about structural engineering being my particular business, right? So create a list of tasks, create around that a team, even if you're the one, right? Even if you're playing all the roles in that team, start thinking about it as a team. Even if it is a team of one and you have these different alter egos and multiple personalities, but you need to think of yourself as different people when you're doing that stuff. Let me tell you something I actually did. Okay, when you have a website, and this is a little bit of a digression, I have a website, prometheusengineering.org. When you have a website, you get email addresses. Okay, so what I actually did was I created email addresses for these different characters before they existed, right? So there was accounting at PrometheusEngineering.org. There was, project coordinator at PrometheusEngineering.org, all that kind of stuff, right? And I had different signatures for them. And when I'm going to send an invoice out or when I'm going to send out a quote, I use the accounting at Prometheus Engineering email chain, right? I have the signature, the name, all that kind of stuff. And I use a different persona. I go ahead as a different person before these people actually exist that help me with these things now, right? So create a list of tasks, aggregate those tasks into different roles, and start, even if you're the only one, start playing all those roles because you're doing it right now, anyways, right? But start doing that. And I got in so far. I mean, you can create business cards for them. And I created email addresses before these positions were filled. I created email addresses. And I don't send invoices from my, principal engineer signature. I send it from the accounting department signature, and I don't call myself Ike in there. Is what I was doing, which is which was an interesting thing to pull off. Shout out to Nicer in the house. Hey, Nicer, how's it going? How's it going? And shout out to S Jade in the house. Shout out to everyone in the house. So, step 3 of the preparatory steps towards thinking strategically vis-a-vis business, okay, is mastering the team. And let me get a one in the chat if everything I just said makes sense. Okay. You have a business. There's something that you're doing right now. K Coaching does some coaching stuff. Jessica X, does ASMR or Jessica X does ASMR with her English accent. Well, whatever it is, right? Um, what are all the steps? Okay, you have a cleaning business. You ride Uber, whatever it is that you're trying to eventually scale. Think about all the steps. Okay, I make a phone call to the client, and then they send me this email, and then I create a quote, and then I ask for this thing, and then I ask for that document, and then I create a folder. Then I create a spreadsheet where I put all the client information, the job information, and the amount of money, and then tally this up. I do XYZ, and then I start the project, and then I do this and I do that, and then I deliver the project, and then I ask, and then I send the invoice, and then I follow up on the invoice. I do my accounting stuff, which is, either QuickBooks, or you have a third party accountant that you use. You coordinate with that accountant, so on and so forth. Everything from beginning to end, listed all as granular steps, and you can chunk those steps into different roles and start thinking already before you have a team. Start looking at yourself as a team of many, and start knowing and noticing the particular character that you are best at playing. You're going to find that you hate spreadsheeting, for example. You're going to find that you hate this particular aspect, or this particular thing here takes the most time for you. It's not your strong suit. Those are the things, to point one over here about the mastering the team. You're constantly working towards replacing yourself. Okay. You want to push those things out, push those things out, push those things out. Okay. So let's say you are a dentist, and when you first start, you take the client's name and you do this and that, and you also do the x-rays, and you come in and you do the cleaning, and you're doing everything. But you want to get to the point, which we usually see, where there's a team. You come in, there's a receptionist, they greet you, they check your insurance, they do this and that, they lead you to a room. Someone else comes in, does the x ray, someone else comes in, does the cleaning, someone else comes in, does that and the other. And then you come in and do what you're best at, which is you come in for 5 minutes, you sit with the patient, you open some information, and you tell them, this is what you got to do, here are your options, so on and so forth. Boom, you move to the next patient. All right. That is the idea behind the mastery of the team here. Okay. And it is super critical. And as I showed you in that notebook, it's something that I did a while ago, which, you know, it really changed the way I thought about what I was doing. Okay. It really did. You want to start thinking of yourself as a team, even if you're still just one person, because then you'll be ready for when you're able to start outsourcing and replacing yourself, because you already have these roles. And in my case, I already had the emails, I already had the steps, I already had everything that this person did. So when they come in, like, okay, now I'm transferring this email address over to you. These are the steps of the things that you do. Take this spreadsheet, take these files, take this stuff, handle the QuickBooks, right? That kind of a deal. Okay. So again, to bring us back to what we're talking about, okay? What are we talking about? We're talking about strategy from a business perspective. Why did I find this book interesting? Because I'm not a strategic person. I am a creative, intuitive, entrepreneurial type. I do not plan. I shoot first, I ask questions later. Hence, it behooves me to understand a little bit the landscape of my ignorance, so that I can bring in somebody, now that we're talking about the teams, so that I can at least be competent in the evaluating of the person that is going to come in and be my help, okay, in the strategic aspects of the business, okay? But at least I have to have an idea about it. And if I'm trying to move, which should be the goal of any entrepreneur, is to move from being an entrepreneur to a CEO, right? Then I need to, you know, start going into filling that mold a little bit. Because just because you're more of a visionary type, a creative type, doesn't mean you cannot push the envelope and become. I believe Steve Jobs was the CEO of Apple, right? Am I correct in that? He was the CEO of Apple. And Steve Jobs is no CEO type in terms of what he is. We know the kind of person he is. He is the entrepreneur type. He is the shoot first, ask questions later. He is the visionary, do, go, start, create type of person. He is not the bean counting, strategic planning, spreadsheeting type. But he had to grow into that. Okay. So I found this book interesting because of that thing, because I'm not a strategic type of person at all. Okay. Aspect of the team thing here. So you got to learn to lose control, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot control it all if you want to grow. You're going to lose control a certain aspect of your business, you need to learn that that is going to be an important part of becoming of growing and becoming more strategic. Rorona says, I have the app Chronicle. Separate all parts of my business to different pages. Use different heads to inspire the collective, the team. Hmm. Indeed. 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 So, ladies and gentlemen, mastering the team. Mastering the team is super important. Understanding that in order to have a team, you're going to need to lose control. Listening to a show recently, O'Shea Duke Jackson interviewing. I don't recall his name right now, but this was the idea. People don't understand that you're going to need to give up some control and outsource, and you're going to need to give up some money. And if you're a greedy bastard like me, then that part can be hard. You're like, oh, why do I need to bring anybody else in? I got here by myself. I have full control, right? And when I was still at this stage, right, when I jotted all these tasks down, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing all these things. I'm keeping 100% of the money. Why do I need to bring anybody in? Yeah, I'm going to create the folder and create the quote, ask for the invoice, and then do the engineering design and also draw it, do the drafting work. I'm going to then send out an invoice and ask for the payment, follow up on the invoice, do the accounting and the QuickBooks and so on and so forth, the tax preparation, interface with the lawyer, blah 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 blah. And yeah, I'm gonna keep all the money, and that's why I'm the man. But that's silly because then it's not a business. No one can buy that. It's a business when you can actually sell it. That is a way of thinking about it. Not that you want to sell it, but if you can't walk away from it, in other words, if you cannot walk away from it, if it is solely dependent on you, then you have not created a business, you've created a job. Again, to the point about knowing yourself, which is part one, maybe that's what you want. Maybe you just want to be self employed, right? You got to ask yourself as you go along, is this what I want? Do I just want to be self employed, do all the work, keep all the money, and then if I get sick, then it's fine that it cannot run. It's not a automated machine. Is that what I want? Because that's fine. The problem is not understanding what you want and thinking that you have a business when all you have is a job for yourself. You created a job for yourself, very lucrative job. You're doing 100% of it. You're keeping 100% of the profits. You're tight-fisted about it. You don't want to lose control and you don't want to lose money. But you're going to need to give up that money because time is the most valuable resource. In a certain way, it's the only resource. If you don't have time, in other words, let's say you're dead, what's the point of talk about anything, right? There is nothing to be had without time. Everything is in time, if you will, right? So, sure, turn around and say, rather than do the drafting, hey, young buck, you want to make some extra money on the side? The clients are going to give me, okay, or the way I've set my operations up for the drafting, for the drawing of this particular thing, I'm going to be getting $400 an hour. But trust me, I can find somebody out there that'll gladly take, and this is a high level drafter now. I can do 3D modeling and all that stuff. They will gladly take $100 an hour for the job. Okay. And sure, go ahead, give up 25%. Give up 25% so that you can walk away from the operation, and still that aspect, at least, of the job, the drafting, will get done. And then you have clerical tasks, you have accounting tasks, right? And then even the engineering task, using my particular case, I'm talking about drafting and engineering and so on and so forth. Even certain engineering tasks, I want to create certain systems that I can hand over to other people so that I will only be doing the difficult, more creative things. Okay. There's this particular kind of engineering. It always happens. Okay, people build. Let's say we do engineering for some kind of home remodeling. People are building decks outside their house. Okay, second floor decks. Okay, create a system for it. A set of details. A set of Excel spreadsheets that do the calculations, so on and so forth. Systematize it. Systematize, so that you can then hand that over to someone else and say, "Hey, young buck at Cal Poly Pomona or University of Missouri studying engineering, you want to make $50 an hour and learn the business? Here you go. You're my guide. You do decks. And when you learn decks, I'm gonna systematize something else for you so you do that. So that now you can walk away. Decks are not particularly lucrative. Let's say it's $200 per hour and you hate doing it. Go ahead. Give him 50 bucks an hour. Give him $75 an hour. Find someone that's good. Give it to them and walk away. Give up the money. Okay? That is the idea. Myers-Briggs personality tests, right? hmm Investing is a technical term for spending. You got to spend money to make money. Unfortunately, you said. Yeah, so you sound like a greedy bastard too, like me. Yeah, it's something you gotta understand that no, go ahead, give up that money, give it up so you can have the time, do what you're best at, create a team. You're not creating a business until you can walk away from it, until you can hand the keys over to somebody, until you can put a price tag on it. Otherwise, it's something that's just wholly dependent on you and it's just a business. What I think of Myers Briggs, I I am a fan of the psychometrics in general. Yes. Um, so I do I do I haven't taken, you know, the test, right? But I do know the different kinds, the different types, and I think I know the type that I am. And Jordan Peterson also, I've taken certain tests from employers, for example, but that's more of your work personality. Your work personality, is about your work persona, which is different than perhaps when we would say your overall overarching persona. Your work persona is about how you do work and how you interface with other people at work, and it's a different thing over there, right? And they emphasize certain things there, but there's one by Jordan Peterson that I also took, and I got to go back and look at the results of that. But they never surprise me. In other words, in terms of yeah, I'm on the creative end, the intuitive end of things, but then I also have a strong order bent, right? Which explains the engineer and musician aspect, right? So I'm very, very much a musician and also very, very much an engineer. And that jack of all trades type thing is my particular burden. I'm never going to be as good in any one of my endeavors as I could be. That's my particular issue. Focus is my particular issue. So I don't focus. Right? You got to know yourself. In other words, I've made a decision a long time ago That all that thing about focus and you got to do one thing. It's like, no, 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 that's not for me. I'm actually much happier doing 10,000 things and knowing fully well that I'm not going to be as good as I could be if I just focused on one. But I'm more happy doing the 10,000 things. And I think that there is a particular value in that. And I think I talked about it before. Shout out to Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert cartoon. He talks about talent stacks. Okay. You can be the 1% of the 1% of the 1% in any particular endeavor, and you can rise all the way up to the top of Mount Olympus. However, another way to stand right next to that person on Mount Olympus is if you are top 5% in many things. Okay. Maybe you're 1% in one thing. Maybe you got great oratory, okay? And you hone that task. That's your thing. You're good at that thing. You're good at presentation. You're good. You got the gift of gab or you've practiced the gift of gab. But you're also a good writer. And you're also a good strategic thinker. 5%, top 5% of that. And maybe you have some other things that you're the top 20% at, okay? And you stack all these talents, you're going to be able to rise also. So, from a purely objective perspective, in terms of rising, stacks of talents are just as important. But what I'm saying is, from a psychological aspect, in terms of what gives me satisfaction, I will not be satisfied focusing on one thing. I will not be satisfied just doing no, 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 no. That's not me. And understanding this about yourself is very important because some people will come at you with the, oh, well, why do you got to do so much? As I say with the acreage analogy all the time, they only you know the acres that you have and that you need to cultivate. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to drive everyone crazy around you. Hence, they should be thankful that you're out there expending your energy doing these things which you know you have to do rather than creating chaos out there in the world, right? Because that'll be the alternative. If I wasn't doing 1,000 things, I'll be causing all kinds of chaos, both to myself and to people around me. Okay. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And checking for you confirms that he is a greedy bastard. Okay, so creating a value-based structure. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, we all know these very, very cheesy, very, very silly and mundane. Our core values. Here at GE, we value and 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 right. But it is important. And you don't have to make it as boring as all those other people make it. But basically, whether you state it or not, there are some important values which are just a translation of whom you are. So that we talked about knowing yourself, asking yourself certain basic questions. What do you want? What are you going to do with it when you get it? In other words, what do you want and why do you want it? What are you going to do with it when you get it? Right? In the answering of those questions, you're going to understand also in combination with what motivates you, what kind of a motivation do you have? Is it kind of purpose driven, advancement driven, or you're just a madman, right? If you can clearly articulate those things around which you have built your business because your business is built around you, then you should be able to articulate and encapsulate perhaps in one or two core values that your business is around. And you want to articulate that as well. So we talked about mastering yourself. Now we're talking about mastering the team. And just like you need to know what drives yourself, you need to know what the team needs to be driven by. Otherwise, or so that A, you can bring in the right people, and B, you can keep yourselves accountable. Okay? You can keep yourselves accountable. And I'll talk about this indirect motivation, which is something I found particularly interesting in the book, which the first time I've heard about it before, but it makes sense. Okay? Hold all team members accountable. And how can you hold them accountable if you don't have this core set of values? And your values cannot be everything and anything. Hold them accountable, and you need to find people that can hold you accountable. Anyone at your level or below, it's going to be hard for them to hold you accountable, especially if they work for you, right? Um, they'll blow smoke up your rear end, and don't believe what they say. Not because they're bad people, but just it just is what it is. They're going to tell you that you're great, and so on and so forth. And they're right. But that's not what you need to hear. Okay? That's not what you need to hear. You don't need to hear that you're great. What you want is someone whom you can share your goals with, that is someone that is above you, someone who is above you in terms of they are removed, dissociated from your particular endeavor, your particular business, and they're above you in certain ways, whereby you understand that you value them highly in a particular regard. And then you use them to hold yourself accountable vis-a-vis your value system, your goals. And then they can call you out on your BS and keep you accountable and say, hey, 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 you claim to be the whatever and that you're all about this, but you've been slipping the past 6 months. Where the hell is the thing that you said you were going to do? How come you haven't set up your office in Portland? How come you haven't gotten this license and the other license? How come you haven't applied for these government contracts? What's going on, dude? Right? Your employees are not going to tell you that. They're just going to tell you how great you are. And they're right. But that's not what you need to hear. You need to be hearing someone who's telling you how not so great you are. Okay? And the more I like drill sergeant type stuff. Okay? There's this guy called Dan Pena. Does anyone know Dan Pena? Let me get a one in the chat if you've heard of Dan Pena. It's Dan Pena, and he's another one of these kind of business guru, motivational YouTuber type characters, and I like the Dan Pena style of motivation. When I've reached the end of my rope, okay, and it will happen maybe once every 6 months in chunks of time, where it's like I have to pull an all-nighter, and I've pulled like three all-nighters in a particular. We got Dan Pena people over here. I pulled a few all-nighters, okay, and I got this deadline, and I'm in the middle of the night doing something, and I've gone through my systems checklist, in terms of my pyramid method. Okay, my hydration is good. My rest is not so good, but there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm exercising. I'm getting my heart rate up. I'm doing my breathing exercises. Going up the pyramid. Make sure everything is cool, but still, I need some extra juice. And damn, I even got coffee. Okay, but I still need some extra juice. I turn on Dan Pena, and he tells me how much of a bitch I am. I love that shit. And that gets me through the night. Because Dan tells me, you little bitch, you better get this shit done. What the hell? You think this is a game? You stupid dumbass. Okay? Oh, you just looked him up, says checking for you. Just looked him up, very interesting character. I would check him out. Yeah. Not everyone's cup of tea. And I just described what I use him for. Okay? Not everyone's cup of tea. And if you watch my channel, you know that I have that kind of I do have an edge, right? Where it's like, hey, you're gonna do it, or you're gonna shut up, or if you're not gonna do it, get the hell out of here, that kind of thing. So I like that kind of motivation. I don't like this soft sugarcoating, whatever. No, when I'm struggling through the valley of the shadow of death, okay, what gets me going is Dan Pena coming and say, "Hey, you little bitch." Or you think this is hard? Yeah, that's what keeps me going. Okay. That's what keeps me going. No excuses. Exactly. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Exactly. Stop all that BS. Okay. You're either going to get it done or you'll get the hell out of here. Okay. No sympathy for you. So, holding yourself accountable. Okay. You can't have people blowing smoke up your rear end. You need people in your life that tell you how much of a B word you are right now and how much you've been slipping and that you're not that great stuff, okay? And how your midsection lately and that six pack you claim you have ain't much of a six pack no more, you little bitch. Yeah, that kind of stuff really, I like that kind of stuff, okay? Because it's real, it's honest. And you notice I laugh because that's where the fun is in honesty, right? Because why hide? Because yeah, you've been slipping, okay? And having a little bit too much extra bread with your coffee and with your heavy cream. And you know that six pack ain't much of a six pack no more. Who you fooling? Excuse me. So, stay accountable. Indirect motivation is an aspect or something that was mentioned in this particular part of the book that I found particularly interesting, which is, and I thought, wow, this is genius. Okay, not something I had thought of before, in the sense that you want to spread positive friction in the group. You can use friction to motivate people, some kind of let's just call it negative friction in the sense that this is friction through opposition. But you want to, rather than, you want to understand what motivates your team though. Okay, but to different team members, right? But there is a kind of person, and when I saw this in the book, I realized, oh, I am that kind of person. There is a kind of person that likes to be indirectly complimented. In other words, there are certain kinds of people whom like their reputation to precede them. In other words, you are the leader. You want to tell somebody else, you know what? Hey, Josh does a great job. And now that rumor is gonna spread about Josh, right? And it's gonna get back to Josh. That's kind of like positive friction in the group. Okay. Rather than spreading negative gossip, you say, hey, rather than tell Josh directly, which you may do as well, okay. But some people actually prefer if it's indirect. And when I read that in the book, I realized I'm one of those kinds of people where I actually like it to be indirect because for some reason it just feels more sincere. Because you tell me I'm doing great work, I just expect that you're going to tell me that. Because, yeah, I did the work and so on and so forth. But when you tell somebody else and then the word spreads, ah, now it feels more real. There's a social reality to it, and there's an aspect of it seeming more genuine because you told somebody else. You're not just telling me in my business review or my time where I'm doing the review to get my salary increase or whatever, year end review, quarterly review, whatever. You're doing a good job, that kind of a thing. It's like, oh, yeah, whatever. Okay, sure. But if I hear from somebody else, great way to motivate your team. Don't tell them directly. Tell Susie that Josh is doing a great job and how Josh killed it this last project. Josh is going to hear about it and he's going to put an extra pep in his step. Extra pep in his step. Jordan Peterson, Maps of Meaning. Yeah, I yeah, that'll be an interesting book to do a review on. I will do 12 rules for life. I will do 12 rules for life. I will do 12 rules for life. First, before I go into maps of meaning. I guess, if I did Plato's Republic, I should be able to do maps of meaning, right, without much trepidation. But Maps of Meaning is a more dense book, heavy on the psychological side. It'll be a lot of fun, actually. That's right up my alley, that kind of stuff. Okay? Yes. So we are putting a nice little bow around this aspect of mastering the team. The first three things we said, okay, if we go all the way back over here, right? We said that the first three aspect of the book, the first three chunks of the book are more preparatory. Thinking strategically about yourself, thinking strategically about your ability to reason, thinking strategically about the team. These are preparatory, and we went through them. We said, know yourself, ask yourself some basic questions. What do you want? What motivates you? Whom are you? So that you don't live someone else's life, so that you know how to use pain as a motivator, so on and so forth, right? And then the ability to reason, we didn't say much about because that's kind of self explanatory. Know how to think strategically, know how to not think emotionally, know how to consume data and analyze data and ask questions at least 3 layers deep. Okay? And then think strategically around those kinds of questions. Think one scenario that was given in the book that I find particularly interesting. I might just take this tangent now. But before I take the tangent, I'll just say that the first 3 steps here are preparatory to getting you to the part where you're going to talk about scaling, which is growth. Okay. How do you grow your business? You're, Prometheus Engineering, and you're a one-man shop and you're doing all these tasks. How do you blow it up? Okay. After, the team is, even after the team has been established, because the team is just a team. It could be just all you or a team, but doesn't mean that you're blowing up yet. But the one scenario that was painted vis-a-vis thinking in a layered way is there's certain top performers that are going to skate by on talent alone. Okay. This is not particularly related to anything I just said previously. Okay. A tangent into a nice little bubble here. And in this bubble, we're talking about top performers and the fact that they will skate by on talent alone. There's something that you're good at. There's something that I'm good at. We know what we're good at. And we know that we're kind of lazy at the things we're good at because they come easy. Let me get a one in the chat if you understand what I mean. Your top salesman, okay, let's say he's a very, very good closer. That's my strength. For example, I'm not so good at prospecting. I'm not so good with the small talk and the relationship stuff. I'm an introvert. So I'm not going to be good at developing and pulling people out from the woodwork and finding out opportunities and so on and so forth. But I'm a great closer um, for whatever reason. Okay. I'm a great closer because I'm a great performer, right? And closing is a very performative thing. Okay. It's a hypnotic thing. And given my whole meditative practice and so on and so forth, it's right up my wheelhouse. I'm a singer, front man in a band. I do a lot of meditation, performance, meditation, thinking strategically. I'm a great closer. Okay. So rather than have 10 prospects so that I can close 3, which is a great kind of rate for, let's say, and just talking about given a hypothetical situation now, I'm going to have 5 prospects and close 4. And my rate is going to look great. Like, wow, you close 4 every month. We're supposed to have 10 every month prospects, let's say. And if you close 3, you're doing good. Ike closes 4. He's great. But you're going to, if you look deeper into the numbers, you're going to see that Ike only really has 5 prospects. And he's leaning on his super strength ability to close. Okay. He's not doing a lot of prospecting. A lot of his prospects come from referrals or from already existing clients and so on and so forth. He's relying on other people to bring in stuff. He only looks at 5, he closes 4. And then in this book, so one thing I just mentioned is, your top performers or you as a top performer is going to be lazy in certain aspects. In that particular thing that you're good at, you're going to lean on it and you're going to be lazy. So if you're evaluating this particular character and you say, hey, you're only prospecting 5, one answer would seem to be, well, get Ike to prospect more, but that is the wrong answer. Well, let's not say it's the wrong answer, but it's not the only answer, and perhaps it's not the best answer. What you want to do is find someone else to prospect for Ike. In other words, say, hey, Ike, you're a super closer. You close 4 out of 5. Okay, you're making your numbers, but you're not even looking at the 10, which everybody's doing and trying to close 3. You look at 5 and you close 4. Rather than make Ike go do some more prospecting, which is maybe something that just immediately comes to your mind, like, well, Ike, you should be doing more prospecting. Go out there and do it 10. It's like, no, no, no. Go find someone else to prospect for Ike, because there's going to be somebody out there who's a great prospector, but not a great closer, a great relationship person, but not a great closer. Team up this relationship person with Ike, have them feed Ike all the great prospects, have Ike close it. As I said, tangent into its own little bubble here, not particularly related in a direct way to what I said previously, but just something I wanted to mention vis-a-vis the not necessarily going in a linear pattern where you think like, oh, well, everybody must do the same thing. Ike needs to prospect 10 because everybody needs to prospect 10. No, Ike is closing at an 80% rate. He's not a prospector, he's a closer. Go find someone else that's great at prospecting, not so great at closing. Combine their powers. By your powers combined, right? So the first 3 are preparatory, and then the last 2, mastering the strategy, the strategy to scale, thinking strategically about scaling, is what we're going to get into now. Okay? That is what we're going to get into. And let me just check out what's going on in the chat. What's going on in the chat? SOBC. Yes, 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 yes. I see ones over there. Yes, you guys understand that you're going to be lazy in something that you're good at. And when you bring in people to your team, understand that if you're talented, they're going to use it as a crutch. I use it as a crutch. What I just described is actually what I do. I'm a closer, but I'm not a relationship guy, not a prospector, not a small talker. Don't like doing things that don't produce immediate result. Okay? So prospecting, small talking, relationship building, and going in there and trying to find things, those things are not very satisfying to me. So I'm gonna make my numbers by just relying heavily on the closing, but not dealing with as many numbers as I should be. So good way to manage me would be to say, hey, get someone that can give me more prospects. And I don't worry so much about prospecting. We need you to just close more of these people, which we're going to give to you. Okay. Because if we give you 10, maybe you can close 7. That'll be great. Right. So we're going to move into the scaling. The scaling is the main part. This is the part, this is where the rubber meets the road vis-a-vis my interest in the book. My personal interest in the book is in the scaling part. And I mentioned also a book called Zero to One by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is, part of the PayPal mafia with Elon Musk and the rest of them. And they're called the PayPal mafia because the people who found PayPal went on to do ridiculously great things afterwards. Elon Musk is one of them. Peter Thiel is one of them. Okay. Peter Thiel is also one of the first investors in Facebook and many other things. These guys just did all kinds of crazy things. And so he's a billionaire. He lives out here in the Bay Area. And he wrote a book called Zero to One, which is about startups and such. And I mentioned that because it's a good book about scaling as well. So this part of the book talks about the stages in the game. Okay. Now we're doing on time. Wow. Am I looking at that correctly? Wow. Um, okay. Yes, the PayPal Mafia, Q Dog. And by the way, to those of you in the chat right now, if you could just give a little bit of feedback, so far, vis-a-vis my review of the book and its contents and so on and so forth, is this something that you would find useful? Would this be a book that you would want to read? Is my presentation of the information clear, succinct, actionable, measurable, intuitive, easy to understand? Let me get your thoughts there. Let me get a 1 if, generally speaking, all these things that I said apply. Or also, maybe you might throw some words in there, maybe recommendations or so on and so forth, or maybe a better book on strategy or something like that. But so far, my breakdown of the book, explanation of what it has to offer, is it giving a good representation of the book? Would you want to read this book? Why would you read the book? Why wouldn't you read the book? Okay. So let me know. Let me know. Let me know. This particular part of the book talks about the stages: formulation, survival, momentum, and plateau. This is true whether you are doing a workout routine or starting a business or studying something. This is just kind of true, generally speaking. Okay. You have to start it, obviously, and then you have to survive, right? It actually needs to exist for a certain period of time in order for it to say, okay, you have survived. Because you can easily start a business. Anybody can go file an LLC, call yourself the CEO on the business card, and yeah, now you're in business, right? You started it, but you need to survive and have a certain revenue streams. Okay, you made 40,000 in your first year. You grossed 40,000 in your first year. You actually had 2 repeat customers that came back to you, and you have some kind of prospects looking into the next year. So you have survived, right? That kind of a thing. So that's the formulation and survival stage. And then there's the momentum, which is where exponential growth takes place. Exponential growth takes place. And then there's a plateau. Every business goes through this. You're going to plateau. Plateau is when you then have to start again a new formulation. Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, calls it, one trick pony company or two trick pony or two trick company, right? One trick company, two trick company. I think he says Microsoft's a three trick company now, which is phenomenal. That most companies are one trick companies. And if you think about it, look, the S&P 500 or the Fortune 500, okay? S&P 500, Fortune 500, whatever particular index you use to measure companies that are the it companies, if you look at the level of turnover, it's ridiculous. Okay. I don't know what it was when the Fortune 500 started to where it is now, the percentage of companies that are still there, but trust me, a vast majority of them are gone. Okay. Starting, you got 500 companies, the people who, I think only about 20 companies that were originally in the list are still on the list. And I believe a company like IBM is one of those. I forget the others. But the point is, plateau happens. Whether it's your exercise regimen or so on and so forth, whatever it is you're doing, plateau happens. Relationships, plateau happens. Then you need to start again or start something new. So you start with a personal computer, you're going to plateau, and then you need to go into, hey, here's the iPod and the phones and this other thing, and you plateau, and then, oh, now it's the apps, right? That's kind of what this means in terms of breaking it into these stages. There's the formation of the company, the survival, the growth, the momentum, and then the plateau. And this is going to happen to you, and you got to be ready for it. Okay. So let me look in the chat a little bit here. PayPal Mafia, ha ha ha. Yes, 111 makes sense. Hmm. Hmm. So now let's talk about this aspect, okay? And this is where things get interesting vis-a-vis my particular interest, because strategy is not my thing, and scaling is particularly important to me right now as we speak, because I am trying to expand the company into a staff augmentation thing, and I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it out into the universe. I'm going to say it that trying to get certain government contracts vis-a-vis staff augmentation, which is quite different from what I do right now, which is, design engineering and, you know, sales. So staff augmentation, which is about getting people, being an employment agency for the government. Okay. Vis-a-vis the contractors that they hire, contractors have to meet certain requirements. Okay. So they have to hire up. But if they can have an agency or some other company that provides them with the staff, and this is construction now, this would be bridge construction in particular, the construction administration aspect of things, not the actual building of the bridge, but the, let's say, it's called construction administration, or construction administration slash project management, right? Because as you can imagine, engineering is involved all the way from the design conceptual phase through to the last bit of construction. Engineering and construction administration is required. So it's something I'm trying to get into right now. So scaling and so on and so forth is particularly important. Now, capitalization is key. Okay, getting money is key. How you're going to fund your business is key, and this goes without saying. But there's just certain things that you need to think about, right? Should you raise money? There should be a question mark at the end of that one there. Okay. Should you raise money? Is a very good question to ask. In other words, it's not always a yes that you should go and either get money from a bank or ask for investors or so on and so forth. But the money needs to come from somewhere. Should you raise it? Okay. Very important one here is, how would you survive if you could not get that money? Because people will not give you money unless you can demonstrate that you don't need it. Okay. And I made a video and emphasized this point, a point that we all know, right? We are all quite aware of the fact that if you're trying to get her number, you're more likely to get her number if you don't need her number. You're more likely to get a loan if you can demonstrate that you have collateral and good standing, being good credit, and that you don't need the loan, and that people will give to those whom can demonstrate mastery, like the Bible says. For those who have, more will be given unto them, and for those who do not have, even the little that they do have will be taken away from them. That's how the world works. So, when you're trying to raise capital, the subtle psychology there is you want to show that even if I don't get this money from you, sir, yeah, it may slow me down a little bit, or yeah, it may cause a little bit of a pain, or so on and so forth, but I'm still going to go ahead. I have a plan for doing this with you or without you, with investor money or without investor money. Super key in getting money, super key in getting anything is demonstrating that you don't need it, right? If you can demonstrate that you don't need it, people will come to you. Why? Because it is better to attract than to beg, as it states over there. Okay. You want people to say, wow, this guy is going with or without me. Okay. And that's what, using the getting her number example is all about too. So, wow, this guy doesn't give a crap about my number or not getting my number or whatever. He's going places with or without me. Ah, here's my number. Right. Same thing with getting money as well. You always want to have a plan for if you don't get the money and be able to clearly articulate that whether you give me this money or not, I'm still going ahead with this plan. Okay. What will you use the money for? Okay. What kind of relationship do you want with the from the investor? Because there are many kinds of many. Do you want them to just give you the money and walk away? Right? Or do you need access to their Rolodex, their contacts, their expertise? Different venture capital firms offer different kinds of relationships. Okay. Some will actually be there with you and have their expertise and so on and so forth because they're funded many of these different kinds of companies and they can help you, with, okay, well, from the basics, like, okay, you want to incorporate as a Delaware corporation and do this and do that and do the other, and here are the steps, and this is so on and so forth. They can be a consultant, in other words. Or do you want to be a consultant slash funder, or you want to just be pure funder and everything in between? These are questions you need to ask when you're talking about raising money, okay? And what are you willing to give up? And over here, I would just say that don't give up, and this is from Damon John, something that he said, which makes a lot of sense. Don't give up portions of your company too quickly, because you're going to run out of company very quickly. Okay, so you want to find ways of monetizing through some kinds of partnership or certain kinds of leveraging of relationships, so on and so. Get money in some way without giving portions of your company too quickly. Because if you're just starting and you need to raise $200,000 and you're going to give somebody 30% of your company because of that, because of some kind of evaluation of the company that you've said, and I'm just giving arbitrary numbers now, you're going to get to the next point where you're going to now need to raise, let's say, $2 million. The next thing you know, you're giving another 30% of your company away. And now you're left with only 40% of your company. Okay. Point is, you want to grow the company to a considerable size where you have now a lot of leverage and so on and so forth, and where you don't have to give up a lot. Okay. Otherwise, you can easily lose all of your company by giving pieces away for funding, for capital too soon. Okay. And you want to know your industry. You want to, besides just knowing your business, you want to have industry numbers. All this kind of stuff I'm saying is stuff that you've seen on Shark Tank. Okay. Understanding the industry in and out and completely. And here's one thing you shouldn't do, and this is don't never think this way. This is a slight tangent. There are people who say things like, this is a $50 billion industry. If we only get 0.1%, that means we'll be getting five, whatever that number is, right? That's not how the world works. Just looking at a huge pie and thinking you're going to go in there and take your slice, that's not how it works. You're not going to get that slice if you're not disrupting. And this is the main point of the 0 to 1, or one of the main points of Peter Thiel, is that you want a monopoly. Competition is for losers, is what he says. Okay. thinking, oh, here's a big pie. If I could just take my tiny little slither, I'll be set. You're not going to get that slither, okay? Because competition is fierce. And you all, the barrier to entry and the people who are already there with all their, don't look at the industry that way and be like, oh, this is a huge industry. Now I mentioned that because you're talking about understanding the industry, talking to your investors and trying to get money out of them, and saying things like, it's a $1 trillion industry, and if we only could get 0.5%, we'll make our money back. It's like, nope, you're not gonna get anything. Too much competition. Okay, that's not how it is. You need to be creating a space where you are getting 50% or you of everything there, or it's a new thing that you're creating, right? That's way more likely to be successful than trying to get a slice of something that's really big. And it's a little counterintuitive because we think, why can't I just get a tiny little slice of $3 trillion? Well, if it was that easy, then everybody would be millionaires because there's all kinds of trillions out there. Why don't we just go take a tiny slice? No, you're not getting anything. That is the nature of competition. Competition is fierce, ladies and gentlemen. So, the momentum aspect of things, okay, you want to be friends with chaos. Chaos is going to happen. Chaos is what it feels like to grow. So you've formulated the company, you've survived a year, and now momentum is going to happen. Think about momentum in this way, okay, ladies and gentlemen, and this is something that Dan Pena says, okay? Something that Dan Pena emphasizes very much. Shout out to Dr. Thunder in the house. Shout out to Dr. Thunder in the house. You guys should check out his channel, by the way. Check out Dr. Thunder's channel. He just did a interview. He just interviewed Solo TV 84. Very nice, chill interview where you get to see the backstory behind Don DeMarco himself. Okay, and thanks, Drew Dog, for putting out the Cash App link. Much appreciated. Very much appreciated. So, okay, quick question. The embedment of an Hey, let's do it live. Let's do it live. um, it's my architect here. What's up, Mr. Mario Jaime Architectural?
Hey, how you doing, man? How's those hands?
You're just so you know, you're live on YouTube right now, but go ahead and ask the question. You're saying 11-inch embedment as opposed to 14-inch for that
Yeah.
yeah.
That's okay, right?
But what was your design for the J bolt based on before?
14 inches minimum.
How come you can only get 11 now? Because of the stem wall?
I tried to understand that. I made the dimensions. So you got 14 inches minimum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to add the 2x12 floor joist. Okay, that's 11 and a half plus 1.5 of the seat plate. So that's 11, 12, 13 inches. Okay, plus the other 3/4 of an inch of the plywood. That's almost 14. So it's 14, and 14 is 28 inches. Plus, you need at least half an inch of thread so you can attach the bolt. But what I did is I did some research and I made some phone calls to a couple of lumberyards. They do have it at 29, so they have to go and get it from those places. These guys don't know what they're doing.
I would say stick to the 14 because again, calculations were not done on this, right? And you don't want to keep on going down that route if it's just a question of getting the right length of steel. I would say stick with the 14. Don't go to 11.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just gonna stick around with 14. Want them to go and get it. So they do have it in on the lumber yard, so that's okay. Okay, so no problem. That's cool.
All right, man.
That's cool. So what are you up to? Are you home chilling?
As I said, I'm actually doing a live stream right now on YouTube, and I'm talking to you. So I'm on my YouTube channel. So don't worry about it. It's at least now the people know that Prometheus engineering is real, and I'm not just here BSing. But anyways,
Okay.
let me know if you have any other questions. Okay.
No problem. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Have a good one. Okay, man. Bye.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, always be working, always be working. As you can see, my architect does not take days off. I do not take days off. Okay. 12 to 16-hour days all the time, always working. We enjoy what we do, but I do apologize. I do apologize for the interruption. And someone was asking if I'm left-handed. Was that what you mean? No, I'm not left-handed. I just happen to have the phone on my right hand, and now I'm drinking the coffee with the left hand. Yes. So that's Mario Jaime of MJ Designs. He is my architect. So continuing here. Continuing with the momentum aspect of things is that exponential growth feels like chaos, and you want to become friends with this chaos. This then goes back to the part about understanding yourself. This is right in the wheelhouse of this channel vis-a-vis mastery of subjective consciousness. This is all about leaning into the chaos, understanding the chaos, understanding that it feels like something in the body, feeling in the body, image in the head, and talk in the head, and using your meditative techniques to be able to master that and then leaning into it, and it does magic for you. Okay, rather than running away from the chaos, okay, running away from, oh my god, because that's what it feels like when you're growing exponentially. Okay, and the exponential growth will happen. It's a phase in a company. One way to think about it is this: you will go from, let's say, you start a company, and you made 2 grand one year or something like that, okay? And then you go from $2,000 to $8,000, right? Or let's say you go from let's just say from 2,000 is effectively zero to $8,000. The equation, an exponential equation that could be written for that particular period of time, is that you took 2,000, which is, let's say, x, you took x to the third, okay? X to the third every year. So it's going to be x raised to T3, where T is measured in years. Sorry for the mathematical equations, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Because 2 raised to the power of third, which is 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 again is 8. You guys get what I'm saying, right? We all did our basic math. I'm not saying anything strange. So don't get scared when I start saying equations, right? But basically, everybody, and the reason I use this $2,000, $8,000 is that it's not that crazy. You can start a company, QDog, Taylor, whomever, you're doing programming, you're doing coaching, doing whatever, and you can go from 2,000 to 8,000 within a year, okay? But I'm just showing you that that is exponential growth with the equation of, you know, x to the x to the T3. You're raising by a third. But guess what? Here's what I will then tell you now. I would say, great, okay, great. Now you need to make $500,000. And you're like, whoa, 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 bro. Eh, this is going to be the normal reaction. You're going to be a little shocked if I were to tell you. Let me get a one in the chat if you understand if this is true, that you went from $2,000 to $8,000, and then I tell you, okay, now you got to go to $500,000. You're gonna say, hey, slow down. Maybe I can do $20,000. Maybe I can, we're gonna feel a little weird about that. But guess what? Eight to the power of 3 is 512. Okay? 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. Here's the self imposed BS that we do. When it was 2 to 8, we did not we don't think that's a big deal because we're looking at the absolute figures. But 2 to 8 is an exponential growth with an exponent of 3. 2 to 8 is an exponential growth with an exponent of 3. 8 to 500 is the same equation, but we wiggle out. We wiggle out. It can be done. It's going to feel more chaotic though. If you went from 2 to 8, you know it was a little bit of a chaotic year. Going from 8 to 512, or let's just say 500K, it's going to be that much chaos too. It's going to feel like 500K much of worth of chaos. But in terms of the equation of growth and the graph that you can draw, you're still on that line. You're still on the X to the T3 line. X raised to the power of T3 with T measured in years now. 1 year you went from 2K to 8K. You can go from 8 to 500. And yes, say we give you 2 years to do it. Point is this. You are already doing exponential growth. The only thing that stops you from going from 8 to 500 is the psychological aspect. Because nothing stopped you from going from 2 to 8, which is exponential, same equation. But you're going to feel all weird because you're like 500 of. But trust me, same equation, same trajectory, and it can happen. It happens. It happens, dude. um, yeah, I've seen it happen. Um, I don't want to say I made it happen. I've seen it happen. Um, I think it's more appropriate to say, right? And that's why I can tell you 100% because I have the same reaction too. Like I can't do that, you know. But yeah, when I started the business, yes, I did go make exponential growth, but I didn't think about it that way because you're looking at the absolute numbers. But if you just keep your nose to the grindstone and keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be like, oh my God, what happened? So as I mentioned before, I'm not a strategic person. Okay, so I did not think strategically in this way and say, oh, I'm going to make exponential growth. But I did turn my back and I was like, whoa, what happened in the last 2 years? Things went bonkers. Things went crazy. It was a chaotic year, and I was just enjoying the chaos because that's my strong suit. Again, intuitive, creative, crazy, motivated by madness type character, right? And then you'll see, oh my God. And it's not any harder. It's not any harder to go from 8 to 500, folks, than it took to go from 2 to 8. Presumably, you already gone through the formation and survival phase. You already have a system and all that stuff is going. Okay. If I were to kind of put a context around it, like a story or something that kind of shows in a more granular way why that is the case, we were talking earlier about you getting $400 per hour on a job and then you giving somebody $100 to do that job and you keeping $300. Okay. In your first year, or that person that you're giving $100 to, why don't you? What if we ask the question, how come this client is not going directly to that person and giving them $100 and the client is saving that money? It doesn't usually work that way. Why not? How come your boss gets 3x, 4x, 10x the amount of money that he's giving you? I'm saying that to demonstrate that it's not necessarily harder to start getting this exponential money. It's just that you have to do, or in this case, us that got this $400 per hour and then gave somebody $100 per hour. There's certain things that we did in order to establish ourselves in the marketplace and get the trust and the ear of the client so that they come to us and they give us $400 an hour. They're not going to go to Mr. College Student and give him anything. He's going to get zero from them. That's what I mean by it is harder, or it's not harder, right? In the sense that, yes, at some point, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you were that college kid and nobody gave you anything. The most you could get was try to pull out $50 or $300 per hour from somebody who already has his engineering outfit set up and he wanted some help. Okay. But this person that's giving you that $100 per hour freely gets $400 per hour from the client. The client will not go and give the college student $100 per hour and save the money. Give me a one in the chat if you understand what I'm saying here. I'm trying to demonstrate that getting that $400, it's not some kind of crazy harder thing that you did. It's the building up of yourself to that point, in the sense that there is a certain threshold you need to break through in order to get the money. Okay. And then you can distribute it. That when you're that college student still starting yourself or just starting your craft, no one is going to come to you. You're going to get zero. Okay. And you're going to work your butt off, building, building, building. And then you're just going to get to a point when people are then just going to give you the money. It goes back to that whole point of to those who have, more will be given. Okay. It goes to that point of since you have demonstrated your credit in the market, if you will, that's when you get the stuff. Okay. Not because you worked harder. No, it was very hard coming from that college student to being at the point where you're now turning around to give the college student. You're not doing anything more. It's easy. In other words, the hard part has already been done. So, two things here. First thing, which I just mentioned, it's not any super extra work. Number two, understand that exponential growth is something that you have already participated in. When you went from 2K to 8K, you did X to the third power in a year. X to the third power the next year can take you from 8K to 500K. Can I get an amen? Right? That is important to know. It's important to understand that you're still on that, and it's mathematics, okay? If you can stay on that curve, you can stay on that curve. Now, exponential curves don't go on forever. That's why there's a plateau, right? But don't plateau yourself prior to time. Now, we've heard of the reality distortion field that people like Steve Jobs have. And we're talking about, again, this is part 4. This is the growth part. Okay, making momentum your friend. You need to have this reality distortion field. Okay, you need to apply pressure on your people. You need to challenge them, ask tough questions, hold them accountable, so on and so forth. How do you hold them accountable? We talked previously about the team, about having a system of core values, holding them accountable, holding yourself accountable as well. And a lot of pressure is going to be required in this particular exponential growth phase. People are going to think you're reasonable, that you're a bastard, and so on and so forth. That's fine. You are as hard on yourself. You're much harder on yourself than you will be on the team. But that's just how it needs to be. The reality distortion field is you being unreasonable, you being, well, not being constrained. And it goes to this whole point of like, I'm going to go from 8 to 500. Who says I cannot? Right? It's important. Okay. And I'll let you guys read the book and all the other books about people who do this kind of stuff, so that you can see that there, success leaves clues. You keep on seeing these particular clues, these particular traits, these particular attributes, uh, commonalities in the storyline, right? And then there's this aspect of the book which is find and keep lions. Okay, you want lions. Lions are hyper competitive. They're super talented. They're full of BS too. They're self-promoting. They're brash, type A personality, so on and so forth. But why do you want these people? Because they can take pressure. They can take pressure. And especially in this exponential growth phase, you want people who can take pressure. And these types of people are built for pressure. Okay. Not your regular stable people whom, they think they're all that, but they're super sensitive. No, the lions, and you got to take the good with the bad. Okay. Hyper competitive, full of BS a lot of times, and kind of self promoting and, maybe a little rough around the edges, but they can take pressure. You want these people in your team, okay? And you want to pressure them. They're there to be pressured, okay? If they're going to be doing all that crap and if you have to deal with all their hard edges, and I'm talking about real lions, not a-holes, okay? Very key. As I was just describing it, I wanted to make it clear. We know it may be obviously clear to you guys, right? That not every a-hole is a lion in this particular regard. If we're talking about a lion, right? There are way, 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 way more a-holes in the world than actual lions. But lions tend to have that a-hole side of them. So if you're going to deal with their a-holery, what you get to do to them is to apply hella pressure on them. And they will produce. Okay, that's what they're good for. Okay, they come in, they have a little bit of an attitude, fine. Pressure them. They can take it and they'll help you move through this particular phase. Okay. And um, there are not so many of them. Actually, the guy that I just spoke to on the phone, I mean, after I got off the phone with him and I was mentioning that he doesn't take days off, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Yes, he's one of those kind of characters. Like, I trust him that he will meet the deadline. He will meet the deadline. He will get it done. He will go to the plan checker's office with the complete set of plans and he will stand on that counter. He just will. And he will take the extra pressure and I can pressure him. Okay. And he has an edge to him too and all this kind of stuff. And it goes along with the territory and it's great. Right. You're not, it's hard. They're hard to find. Not everybody is going to be that. But don't be, oh, I'm going to get rid of lions. I just want a bunch of sheep around me. No, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that exponential growth. You're not going to be able to go from that 8K to that 500K with a bunch of sheep around you. You can find a nice linear path. You go from 8K to 16, and you're like, wow, we doubled. But you do realize that you just changed your exponential growth to now a linear line, which perhaps will lead you to plateau quicker and crush your company. You need that exponential, but as the first thing mentioned previously, you want to make chaos your friend. It's going to be chaotic, okay? And if you're someone who enjoys the chaos, then that'd be great. If you're not, then you need to deal with it. And here's where the mastery of subjective consciousness comes in. Here's where the pushing yourself comes in. Here's where the listening to Dan Pena in the middle of the night comes in, okay? And it just kind of comes with the territory, okay? Right? And I'm going to mention here again finding people to keep you accountable, okay? Finding people whom can keep you accountable, okay? Take advantage of the unexpected opportunities. Say yes because you never know. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to scale now into the staff augmentation business. And it is something that I just said yes to. And it is something I've always said yes to certain things. And it's going to feel like chaos, okay? Shoot first, ask questions later. If it's not your strong suit, partner up with somebody who can do that. Okay. But I know that that's my thing. The chaos land is my land. Okay. The land of do, shoot first, ask questions later, intuitive, creative, just get it done, get it done, get it done. That's my thing. But how do I do it? It's not automatic. It's still, I still experience the chaos in my head and all that kind of stuff. After I put down the phone and I said, yes, I'm going to do it and I'm going to meet the deadline, it's still like, okay, now how am I going to do that? It reminds me of a particular character. When I was growing up, my dad had this guy, let's just call him Mr. X, in his office. Okay. And my dad would call Mr. X into the office and he would say, "Hey, Mr. X, you need to do this and you need to do that, and then you need to go to the airport and get 72 traveler's checks, and you need to do this, do that, and do this, blah, 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 blah. Go." And then Mr. X turns around and he starts going. And then my dad calls him and he says, "Is that possible?" And Mr. X says, "No." It's really it's funny. A slight exaggeration there on the thing, but that's kind of a typical. He just turned around and he was going to go do the impossible. Okay. Um, and you have to have that kind of a mindset in the exponential growth phase. In other words, for example, in 2018, I took on my biggest job until that point. And it was an NDA kind of job, non-disclosure agreement, something going on around here in the Bay Area, blah, blah, blah. It actually involves particle accelerators. Um, so small outfit like myself, I have no business trying to get this job or do this stuff, conventional wisdom would say, right? But I said yes. And I kind of underbid it as well. And I didn't know how I was going to get it all done. But I said yes. Okay. And I run that job at a loss because I did not really, as I said, I underbid it and so on and so forth. But I knew that I needed to do that in order to step myself up to the next level. And after doing that job, because A, from the confidence of doing it, B, from the contacts that I got from doing it, and C, from the fact that I could say that I did it, I was able to get many other jobs that more than paid for the losses that I made on that job. If I had said, let me wait till I'm ready, which is not my personality at all, but if you succumb to that, then you will never be ready, number one. And when you're ready, it's already too late. If you're ready, it's too late. Let this be a mantra to you. Okay. If you are ready, it is too late. You're not doing anything if you're ready. If you're ready, you're not really doing anything. If that makes sense. Because doing is pushing the envelope. Doing in this exponential growth is chaos. Doing is your legs are getting kicked out from under you. You are out of whack, out of balance. You have no idea where you're gonna land. That's what doing looks like when you are scaling. And scaling needs to happen. You need to lean in to that chaos, which is the first thing that I said. Both subjectively, in terms of when you feel that chaotic thing and you're feeling image and talk trifecta, go ahead, lean in, observe it, create the observer, watch it. Don't be fooled by it. It's just feeling, just image, just talk. Lean in. And then objectively, if you're ready, you're not doing anything. If you're ready, it's too late. So if I had done that I'm ready thing, who knows what could have happened, right? But no, I went in and I executed on it. I still have that client, but I used that particular job, which I can continue to use for years and years, as far as like saying, yes, I did that, right? To get other clients and build things that way, okay? And the confidence, it gives you a huge boost of confidence to know that, oh my God, actually, how did I pull that one off, right? Um, that's the only way to get ready is to do things that you're not ready for, right? And wait for the next opportunity to come along where you're like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. And then take it. Okay. As I said, lean into the feeling of chaos, maximize speed and efficiency in this particular phase. And similar to the question to what I said about writing down each task, right? Writing down each task that any particular process takes. You want to write down each task. All right. So, yes, here is the link. Questions, contributions, join the stream. Lion Legal. You were in the premiere last time of the recorded, I believe it was you, and you had asked also about the stream. If you are ready, says Gerald Draymond. If you're ready, it's too late because there's never an ideal, utopian, and convenient opportunity. Exactly. Exactly. Opportunity does not look that way. That's not what opportunity looks like. Opportunity doesn't look like, oh, I have everything all perfectly manicured and ready. And now here comes the dish and it comes on my table where I've already laid out the white cloth. That's not opportunity, bro. That's not opportunity. Opportunity is the turkey is flying in and you don't even have a table and you got to build it while you fly it and chop it and cook it and do whatever and make the white cloth out of the nearest whatever, and that's what opportunity looks like. And you better grab that turkey while you're at it rather than wait. No, 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 I got to build the table and the white cloth needs to be set and the wine glasses and the ripper and no, 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 no. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. And this all goes into your mindset of going from that 8 to 500 because you went from 2 to 8, which is an equation of x to the third again. And continuing on that equation should take you from 8 to 500. How do you actually do it? It's doing things like saying yes. Say yes, say yes, say yes. Say yes. So you guys can join the stream. Feel free to join the stream. Um, Let me, for a second here, see what else is going on. Okay. See what else is going on vis-a-vis this. Hold on one second. Okay. Hold on one second. Now, maximizing speed and efficiency in this particular regard is going to be super important for your exponential growth. Write down the list of tasks that it takes to do any particular process and try to eliminate one. It's a very simple thing to try to do. There's always a way to get quicker. Okay. Think of Amazon one-click shopping. It's a huge reason why Amazon, the speed and the ease of shopping at Amazon is a huge part of it. Look, time is the main thing. Think of Amazon, think of Uber, think of all these things now that use apps and so on and so forth. Okay, shopping has existed since forever. Okay, transportation has existed since forever. Okay, what does Amazon do? What does Uber do? It's about speed. It's about the time. Okay, so you want to be able to write down all these particular tasks that it takes for any particular process and try to eliminate one and then beta test it. Okay, try to say, how about if we skip this task? How about can we make this one quicker? You can always be quicker. You can always be quicker. Okay, be prepared for growth, okay, and have some excess space, have some excess capacity, okay. Always have the excess capacity because otherwise there's going to be it's going to that chaotic situation you're going to have is going to crash if you're not ready for that excess, okay. If you don't get, for example, there are many ways in which this is true. One of the easiest ways is just think of office space, okay. But one thing that I've learned is get more insurance or get the next level of insurance than you think you need. Get the next level of legal help than you think you need. Get the next level accountant than you think you need. Because trust me, you're gonna get into the situation where you need that person. Okay, I've learned from the past where I'm like, I'm gonna go on the cheap with my insurance. Okay, with my professional liability insurance and so on and so forth, and then boom, the opportunity comes up and I'm scrambling trying to get the insurance updated and I lose the contract. Why? And since then, I've never made that mistake again. Get top tier insurance so that you can do any kind of job that comes along. Go get the best insurance agent so that you can get any kind of opportunity. This goes to that idea of have this excess capacity so that when that thing comes up, you can just continue to ride. Okay, just continue with the ride. Okay. Then don't F it up with vices, okay? Because in this particular phase, you're gonna feel like you're Superman, okay? Even if it's not in really look, I'm super introspective and so on and so forth. So it's not it kind of feels weird for me to say, oh, you're gonna feel like Superman because not really my thing. But you're liable to start thinking you're invincible. Okay. Everything I've said so far may make you think, oh yeah, you're invincible. No, you're taking all these risks, you're leaning into the chaos, but you know 100% that it could come crashing down. That's not the point. The point is you should not start feeling invincible and do something that's self-sabotaging and stupid with devices, right? Don't get into devices. That will screw everything up, ladies and gentlemen. And let me go ahead and take a little pause over here. And how's it going?
I'm all right, thank you. Finally, how are you?
I am fine. Welcome again. What you got for us?
What I got? Okay. Uh, I would completely agree with you in regards to your statement that opportunity is best received when you are prepared, and you cannot be prepared when the opportunity arrives. There's a great lawyer in Canada who stated that what he did to get prepared for a case or prepared for a client that comes into the door is that he never researched the case when the client walked into his door. Prior to that, years before that, he would read the whole statutes and code book
Mm.
from back to front, make notes on the code book. He would read case law so that by the time the opportunity came, the client already knew that this guy knows what he's talking about. And the funny thing is that I actually saw this lawyer in court before I heard him state this proposition. And I saw that he spoke incredibly intelligently. He was informed about a whole array of cases. And I thought to myself, this is a sight to behold, because you don't normally see a person who is that effective, that quick, and that informed about the issue. Typically, counsel will rely on a case or two and state that, okay, this case supports my current action in court. They don't normally know like the whole area of law that they're talking about. So just to illustrate the point again, I completely agree with you that you have to truly know what you're doing. You have to be prepared before the opportunity even arrives or manifests itself. You can't wait. If you wait, it's too late.
But what if you're not prepared?
If you're not prepared, you have to take the risk. You have to take the risk
Good.
if it's important enough. If it's important enough, and also using intelligence and common sense, because there are some industries in which you can't really put your head above the parapet, so to speak, and make a mockery of yourself or embarrass yourself if you don't know what you're talking about. However,
Mhm.
in life, there sometimes comes chance, and you have to take that chance no matter what, because at the end of the day, if you don't, you never know when it's going to come around again. You never know. So you have to ensure that if it's important to you, if it's something that could change your circumstances and it brings you closer, this is the important point. If the opportunity is going to bring you closer to self-actualization, that's an opportunity worth taking. If the opportunity is going to draw you further away from that, if it's an opportunity with legal risk, an opportunity that could destroy an important relationship in your life, an opportunity that could cause like regret to you later on down the road, then that's a bad one. But if it is something that you've dreamt about, being a Hollywood star, owning your own business, working at a particular company, go full force no matter what. Go full force, pray, and hope you can take the leap and land on your feet.
100%. I 100% agree. And the aspect of not going for opportunities that move you away from what you call self-actualization, with, for example, the opportunities with legal risks. And that goes to the last point there that I was saying about don't F it up with vices, because this is a key aspect of messing up that momentum. And a lot of people, I mean, there are many vices, greed, gambling, but being cheap or spending or overspending
Hmm.
or trying to go and bribe some particular government official in order to get a contract, doing things that are unethical within your particular circle, stealing clients, whatever it is, things that will jeopardize, your license. Let's say you have some kind of a license to from the FDIC, from the Board of Engineering, from the bar, whatever it may be. Such things, those risks will come up, and you need to be very careful about those. But the risk of falling flat on your face and looking like a fool in front of a client, those ones you got to take. Right? You need to take those risks because it's not the end of the world if it happens. And then the upside is so huge. Plus, things are not ever as bad as we anticipate them to be in terms of these kinds of things. And people are more forgiving. And something actually recently happened, and this is not a question of risk, it's more of a question of falling flat on your face and then just going back to the client and saying, hey, this is me coming with my tail between my legs. I messed up on this particular selection of this particular product. This is me now. I did this a couple of days ago. And you just come clean and say, yes, I made a mistake. And then you follow you make them realize why they work with you in the first place, which is you clean up the mistake, you are responsive, you're prompt, you take action, you stay transparent, you're communicative, and so on and so forth. And then things will roll over. People are more forgiving than you think. So don't worry about falling flat on your face and looking like an idiot in front of a client. But don't do anything stupid vis-a-vis legal risks and things that are unethical that could risk cause you losing your license and so on and so forth.
I
Yeah.
think
So
just
go ahead.
just to jump on the point that you said, I would not really define that as a vice. I think what you're talking about is one whose character is not aligned to the opportunity that they seek. So they state that they would like to be an actor, but yet they don't read the lines prior to an audition. They don't stay in shape. They don't present themselves as an actor would. They state that they would like to build a business. They have not maybe got the academic understanding of business processes. They have not done the research, and they stay up late or go out partying instead of create a business plan. So such weak character is a strong impediment to success. However, it can be changed and modified if that person has the right kind of drive and is very, very serious about wanting to be a success in a particular field. And that's why it's
Mhm.
incredibly unhelpful and counterproductive for a person to just say, I want to be rich, because there are so many different ways to be rich. For a person to say, I want to be successful, what kind of success are you talking about? However, if they are aligned into an area in which they have experience, in which they have natural talent and skill, or even if it's an area that they may not have a lot of experience in, but they have a great passion for, then they're likely to be able to curtail the much more deleterious and self-destructive aspects of their personality if they truly value their objective more than they value short-term gain or impulsive behavior. So it's all about if they're telling you the truth about their wish to be successful. Because if they're telling you the truth, then they'll do what it takes to be successful. If they're not, and they're just talking, talking out of a wish to seem a lot more aspirational, then they may talk a lot but not achieve anything. So it depends on what is truly inside them and what is driving them. That's the main issue.
100%. And I made a video called Shut Up and Show Your Work, which is directly to this point. And because the particular kind of character that you mentioned could come in a couple of forms. Number one, he may just be somebody that is all about the talk and he really doesn't want to do anything. Or he
Mhm.
may fall into a lull, laziness, and one way of falling into this laziness is to start talking about stuff that you're going to do. And I find that, and the way I described it in that video is, when you talk about it, you're going to kill your hunger because you're going to create an external reality. You're going to be seeing your people are going to you're satisfying the hunger in a way that does not actually move the ball forward, does not move the dial, right? You don't want to talk about it because when you talk about it, it kills the hunger. And that hunger is something that you should be using to make those phone calls, fill out those forms, start that business, try to pursue things. Keep it quiet. Okay. So if you're someone who is prone to talk a lot, you need to shut up. You need to shut up more.
No,
Yeah.
well, I think that there is a place for discussing issues, because that can allow a person to actually analyze whether their dreams are realistic, or if they truly understand the task that they're about to undertake. Because by talking about it, people can tell you, have you thought about this? Have you looked at this perspective? Although sometimes it's not good to involve everybody in your aspirations, because there are people who can be jealous of that too, and that is something else that people have to watch out for. The last point I will make is that the issue in regards to success and attainment of financial goals, getting rich, etc. There's a slightly environmental factor at play too, and I
Mm.
think that especially with young black kids too, because if you're in a place where you don't feel comfortable, you experience a lot of racism, things of that sort, that can now prevent you from wanting to be part of the society or to integrate in a way that you feel that your focus is going to be 100% on attainment of self-actualization, because you are much more concerned with not going to an area that you might be excluded from. Essentially, you're a lot more concerned with uh, trying to live up to the construction of your self-image by society, which may be a negative construction. It might be a stereotype, as opposed to you expressing what you'd like to be. For example, if a young black kid says, "Okay, I'd like to be a skateboarder," people might scratch their heads and say, "Why do you want to do that?" Whereas if you said, "I want to be a basketballer," everybody, "Oh yeah, fantastic, great idea." But how many people have found more economic stability and success becoming a IT consultant compared to a basketballer? That's the question. So, statistically, so I think environment plays a part, and that's why it's very important to have the right environment, the right community that is going to essentially create a barrier around you, a positive barrier, whereby people want to see you successful, not where you're surrounded by people with a lot of animosity, who have irascible temperaments and don't want to see you succeed. It's good to be around people that think, okay, how's it going? Have you achieved what you set out to achieve, and people that support you. Because I think even if you ask any psychologist, that can create incredible drive and self-esteem, passion, whereby these kids don't doubt themselves and they think, I can achieve anything that I set my mind to. It's, very powerful. And the last point I'll say is that there was a study in Wisconsin at the university there that said the one greatest indicator of a person's success is not linked to GPA, is not linked to what course they did, anything of that sort. It is simply linked to their self-image, if they were considered confident people or not. That was it. That was the highest indicator of if a person would be successful in the future after they graduated from university. So that has to show you something. The belief that you have in yourself is what determines if you'll be successful or not. You have to have that belief, and if you do, you will succeed.
100%. Very well put. Very articulately stated,
Thank you,
sir.
Ike. Love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. Fight down the haters and detractors. You will definitely get there. I'm a supporter, so hey, it's all good, man.
All right. Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. Bye.
I'm going to do a few comments there on what the gentleman said. Okay. So that is why it is important for people whom are in the other fields, and I'm jumping into the middle of a sentence now, into the middle of a stream of a thought. The stream of the thought is this. You mentioned that, or the caller mentioned, person A wants to do basketball, but how many more people are more successful in the IT space? It is incumbent upon the people in the IT space in a community where this person A does not see a lot of examples. It is incumbent upon the people in IT space, for example, to put themselves out there and crush the image of the detractors or the other people. So I was listening to MOT, Man of Tomorrow. Okay. I was listening to Man of Tomorrow talk about certain images that are out there of the black youth get to see, propagated by older black people whom are still in their, if anybody outside their 20s, maybe even over, any man outside over 21 is still talking about game and that stuff, and dwells on the aesthetic aspect of things. And with that, I include arts, entertainment, sports, right? So, game, women, arts, entertainment, sports, throw a ball through a hoop, dancing monkey stuff. Those people are not to be listened to, okay? And there's already too much of that in a particular community that doesn't need any more of that stuff. And that is not the stuff that gets anything done in any real society, anyways. And it is incumbent upon those people whom are not in there, whom are actually doing stuff, in your case, the particular IT professional, for example, to make their voices heard and to repudiate those hucksters coming out here that are still talking about game and swag and certain silly other things that will not be taken seriously anywhere, okay? And that it is ridiculous coming from someone who grew up where and how I grew up. It's ridiculous that anyone outside their teenage years is still talking about game and swag and emphasizes aesthetic things like arts, entertainment, sports, and so on and so forth within a community where there's already too much of that, and it really does not matter. Not because I'm against aesthetics, made a whole video talking about aesthetics, but it is about the human prowess that aesthetics is a manifestation of, and not this other crap that certain people tend to emphasize. And I'm calling out the older people now within the society or the community, this particular community, that are propagating and promulgating this same nonsense, and having the younger kids still see as their definition of manhood, masculinity, so on and so forth. They see it as to be game, swag, dancing monkey, throwing balls through hoops. And that is very unfortunate. And it is incumbent upon those of us whom don't do that nonsense and who understand that it truly is nonsense, and who understand that who understand where the power really is in the world, to make our voices heard. Okay, that's my soapbox for today, which I am now gently stepping off of. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Q Dog says, haven't heard that in a while. Wonder what it is you heard that you haven't heard in a while. But we're coming towards the close of this particular, okay, this particular book review, if you will. Part 4 in the What Ike Reads series, and it's about this book called Your Next 5 Moves. It's about thinking strategically. Strategy is very important because moving ahead in any particular endeavor involves moving from a more tactical point of view to a more strategic point of view, from a point of view that just looks at what's in front of your nose to a point of view that delays gratification, from a point of view that looks at just what's your next step to what's your next 5 steps. The book, oh, the G word, game, yeah. So the book is broken down into 5 parts. The first 3 parts are preparations for the last 2. And these have to do with thinking strategically, first and foremost, regards to yourself, and then regards to thinking and reasoning, and then the team. Once you got those 3, now you're ready to scale and you're ready to do the last part, which I'm going to talk about right now. The last part, we're not going to spend much time on, is power plays. And this has to do with beating the Goliath in your area. So you've gone through the formulation phase, you've gone through the survival phase, and now you've exponentially grown. Okay. We spent a lot of time in that exponential growth part, that scaling part, because that's a part in which there are many psychological hiccups. Okay. The other parts are just kind of strategic. Well, create a list of tasks, create a team, blah, 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 knowing that you're going to need to have a culture that is based on values, and the values are going to come from the fact that you understand yourself and what you're looking for, blah, blah, blah. Now, you've gone through the exponential phase, okay? You have your insurance agency, you have your engineering company, you have your coaching company, whatever it is, whatever endeavor you're doing. Or you could be an entrepreneur, which is one of those made up words, because entrepreneur is a French word. It actually means something. The entrepreneur is a made up word to mean that, take for example, a Steve Ballmer, a billionaire, but he never owned anything. Okay. He worked from within. He was one of those lions that we talked about earlier, whom you want to have. You can either be an entrepreneur or you can be a lion for some other entrepreneur who's going to put pressure on you and you're going to explode and you can become a Steve Ballmer. There are more of the Steve Ballmer types than the Steve Jobs types. Okay. There are more Steve Ballmer making hell of money, billionaire, making a lot of impact in the world than the Steve Jobs types. Okay. People who work within organizations and are in organizations where their talent and their entrepreneurial spirit is recognized. Okay. The lions that we spoke of earlier, and then they can excel. However, now we're talking about beating the Goliath. Okay. Who is the big person around? Okay. And for this one, I will ask you to just go ahead and look at the book. Okay. But one of the main things is you want to think and act big way before you get there. Okay. You want to imagine what exactly is the ideal, what does my company look like? Okay, in the ideal form. Okay. And then you will realize that in order to get there, you have to start acting like that right now. You cannot be antithetical to your goal. You need to think big and act big way before you're big. And it almost goes to that point that we mentioned earlier on the point of exponential growth that says that we need to take on opportunities way before we're ready. And that opportunity never comes in an ideal and utopian way. Shout out to the chat. Okay. That you need to say yes, shoot first, ask questions later. Say yes, and then go figure out how to do it. This is another way of saying that, but in a slightly different realm, which is an image realm, an attitude realm, a way of presenting yourself to the world, and a way of acting realm, a way of thinking about yourself realm. You already need to be big way before you're actually big. Okay, it is key. Some of the reasons why may be intuitive, but go ahead and read the book. Also, control your image and control the narrative. Think about it. Way before Barack Obama became president, he wrote that book. Well, first of all, he knew he was going to becoming the president of the United States was a thing for him. Okay. Was a thing for him. He wrote that book, Dreams of My Father, where went ahead and he put the image of himself out there. And he said the negative things that could possibly come out later, right? He said, yes, I smoked hella pot. Yes, I was doing hella cocaine with the snow bunnies. Right? And he just quelled all that. Okay? In case anybody wants to bring that up later, okay? Let me write this book years and years prior to time about what I am, who I am, and my image, and so on and so forth. I'm going to control the narrative so that you're not going to come out and say, hey, this guy was doing blow with our snow bunny daughters. So he did that. That was one particular medium, the medium being the book. Now, in the age of social media, there are various other media which you can use to control your narrative. You put yourself out there. Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on and so forth. At least begin by having a solid LinkedIn and certain other things. YouTube is a great example. The writer of this book, Patrick Bet David, is a CEO of a insurance company, but he has a channel called Valuetainment. You can watch a lot of stuff on Valuetainment where he interviewed Jordan Peterson, he has interviewed President Bush, and so on and so forth. And you will never know anything about the company that he runs or whatever, but that is a way of him having an image and a presence out there. So this is about defeating Goliath, okay? In order to defeat Goliath in your space, in order to make power moves in your space, in order to be the big guy in the space, which you need to eventually become, you need to think strategically. Thinking strategically means you need to already act and think big way, way, way before. And you need to be able to control the narrative and control your image. And you need to be self promoting. Do not be afraid of promoting yourself. And this goes to that point that we made earlier about human beings actually still exist in this world. We are human beings. They don't just exist in history books where you can read about great people and doing great things. Well, why not you? Okay. As a matter of fact, you live in one of the best times that could possibly exist with all kinds of resources, all kinds of knowledge and know how. If you take the phrase standing on the shoulders of giants, right, to heart, that Isaac Newton said, he did things because he was standing on the shoulders of giants. We have the civilization that we have right now and the history that we have and the time in which we live in, okay, this constitutes a massive, massive, massive giant that we are all standing on top of. We should be doing massive things as a result as well. So thinking, I don't want to promote myself may be fine. But recall, we have already in step one asked ourselves who we are, what we want, why we want it, what we're going to do with it, and did that excavation. Okay, as I said, it's not a building; it's an excavation into the soul. You're an archaeologist. You go ahead and you chisel things out. You find out who you are. If you are this person that you want this thing, you really do want it, then self promotion should be second nature. Okay. Promote thyself. Put yourself out there. Don't worry about it. This is not about modesty or not being modest or so on and so forth. Promote yourself. Control your image. Promote yourself. Control the narrative. Promote yourself. Form strategic alliances. That is semi self explanatory. The book goes into it. And also allow others to chip away at the Goliath. Okay. Don't do all the work yourself. You may want to use more of the cloak and dagger approach. Okay. There are other people that are fighting against the big boy. Okay, there are many people, they're fighting against the big boy in the hood, the big boy in your territory. Maybe it's the insurance space, maybe it's the training space, maybe it's the space of whatever your space is. There is this big particular character. You don't necessarily have to be in forefront of the battle the whole time. You can sit back, relax, slow down, do your thing, let other people distract the Goliath. This was a interesting part of the book where he goes into the mafia as well. He goes into this guy, Patrick Bet David, the Valley Tainment channel, has many very interesting interviews on of ex mafia bosses, Sammy the Bull Gravano and Michael Francesi and certain other people like that. So he's kind of a little obsessed with the mob, which we're all a little obsessed with the mob a little bit because it's a nice romantic story. There's family, there's death, there's money. It's great, it's sexy, right? But there's a lot to be learned from them in terms of business strategy and also making power moves in places where the stakes are literally life and death, right? And in this making power moves and beating Goliath, he emphasizes a lot of things that you can learn by studying the tactics of the mob, making an offer he cannot refuse. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of this particular one. This book is called Your Next Five Moves. And apologies for the typos in the top and the typos that existed all throughout this. I will try to do better in that regard as we move along here. But this was a book about strategy. Strategy is very important because going from a kid to an adult, going from a salesman to a sales manager, going from a grunt to a general, these all involve becoming more and more and more strategic. Okay. I was interested in the book because strategy is not my strong suit. I'm not a planner. I'm more of a visionary, intuitive, action, shoot first, ask questions later, and then things just kind of work out. They don't really just kind of work out, but I have a strong tolerance for all the chaos that comes along with it, all the mess that needs to be cleaned up. That's just how I like to live my life. So I was like, okay, how do I become more strategic? I started reading books like Zero to One by Peter Thiel, which I will do a quote unquote review on. And these are not straight up reviews. These are, reviews that take 2 hours. It's more expounding upon what I found interesting in the book and books that I found particularly interesting and that I would recommend. And this was another one of them. I also recommend the guy's channel, Patrick Bet David. Valuetainment is the name of the channel for anyone who wants to, who likes topics like this, entrepreneurship and business and motivation and getting things done. I would say that his channel is a great one. Again, shout out to the chat. Shout out to the chat, one and all. Goldie Jones says, self promotion is the hard part for me. I'll be there, contribute, present, but not say anything about my work or product. Um, yeah, I self promotion. Yeah, I mean, it is not a surprise that, and I would not be surprised if you didn't find, if you actually find it easier to promote other people than to promote yourself. Okay, not to get into the whole male female thing, but men and women are different. Okay, and self promotion is not the female strong suit. It's more of a guy thing, right? And women tend to be able to promote other people, okay? And if you can do a bargain thing where, okay, I'll promote you, you promote me. And this kind of goes back to that other point where, you want to put a good word about somebody rather than praise them directly or compliment them directly. You put a good word in circulation around and then that kind of a thing. But getting their ways, okay? There are ways of self promoting that are more in the female domain. So it's not a question of black and white. Men self promote, female don't self. No, women just do it differently. You have to find a way of doing it. Okay, if you read books about the Russian aristocracy, the French aristocracy, or novels written in those times, okay, you will see how the women in the court, if you will, right, the aristocracy did their kind of self promotion. Okay, and it wasn't coming out, pounding their chest. It was done in a different way. This is what needs to be mastered. In other words, we all have different things that we're good at. We all have different things that look good on us too. In other words, pounding your chest may look good if done in a tactful way. Looks better on a man than perhaps he may look on a woman. But there is a way that a woman will do her self-promotion that is different, right? A masculine way, a feminine way, so on and so forth. Point is, do not hesitate to promote thyself, okay? Because if you got something to do, if you already answered the questions, okay, understanding you've already understood yourself and you know what you're trying to do, then you should not be afraid to go out there and put it out there. Okay, shout out to Q Dog and everybody in the house. Let me see what happened over here in this other space. What happened over here in this other space? Q Dog in the house. Thank you for the $10 Cash App. Questy Jackson, thank you for the $5 Cash App. To Kerrigan, you guys are very, very gracious. You guys are very, very kind. I do appreciate every bit of it. I am a capitalist to the bone. I want every dollar, every cent, every penny. Okay, value for value. All right, and it is also definitely an encouragement, and it makes me understand that you guys are getting something out of this as well. Money is a signal. Okay, money is a signal. And Goldie Jones says, thank you for this. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out. And let me see. What's next? Okay. I will be putting out that video documenting the trip. Okay. I'll be putting out that video documenting the trip and some other things coming up soon. Okay. But for now, the battle within continues.
On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle